You are indeed first, Ilirda. God damn, the homie's rolling in. I guess I'd better start. I'm pretty much ready. All right. So, hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? I hope you've had a excellent weekend. It's been kind of a W of a weekend, I think. Mother, what's up, Catfish? Yeah, Labor won big, actually. Very, very big. At that store, but your outfit is giving me life. God, I hope you feel better, Brain Matter. Migraines suck. And thank you, Shufa Poofer. So, before we get into the Australian election coverage, which is going to be incredibly fun, we might as well, have a look at some less fun stuff, too, first, just to balance it out. Although, one of these is kind of funny. Align with Trump, lose your job. That's also true.
Simi Valley.
A plane fell into a house today in California, and I think that's wild.
Where a small plane crashed into the Wood Ranch neighborhood.
Yeah, this happened about 2 this afternoon. Witnesses say the plane was flying erratically just before it crashed, and a homeowner narrowly escaped that impact. Let's go to Chris Wolf. He's live in Simi Valley tonight. He's got the latest on this. Chris.
Yeah, Rick and Court, this is going to be an active scene for several hours to come into the wee hours of the morning. Investigators are still waiting to get the tail number of that aircraft and confirm the number of people on board. But we can tell you at least one person on that plane, a single-engine fixed-wing aircraft, is confirmed dead. There were no casualties on the ground.
Well, that's lucky.
It all happened just
especially considering it flew into a house. I think that's pretty lucky that there weren't any people on the ground who were who died. That's wild. This is what happens when you take the woke out of the planes. Small planes crashing all the time is not new, but seems to happen more often now. Well, I mean, that does kind of track with we fired all of the FAA, and now there's more plane crashes. So makes sense. What's up, Lennon? Long live the nonviolent resistance. Exactly.
2 o'clock this afternoon here in Simi Valley's Wood Ranch community. It's a hilltop neighborhood along High Meadow Street. A husband and wife were at home at the time. She was cooking. He was outside trimming trees. He tells me he noticed a small plane circling overhead, very low to the ground.
People don't know how terrifying it should be to, like, fly in a plane. You know, like, if you don't have your commercial pilot's license, you're not technically allowed to fly within a mile of a cloud. Just within, like, anywhere around the cloud. Because the air pocket could just, boop, fuck you up instantly. Biggest killer of rich people is their small planes. Well, then I support them.
And it was on its side with the wings
and
tilted.
Helicopters.
At first, he thought it was some type of acrobatic maneuver, but then he quickly realized something was terribly wrong, and he ran to warn his wife. The plane slammed into their backyard and exploded into a fireball.
Like,
their home
insane.
And a neighbor's home.
Imagine being at home and a fucking plane lands in your backyard and explodes.
Sustained damage, including shattered windows, smoke, and fire damage. Neighbors scrambled for cover and, of course, called 911.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. That's wild. Speaking of a non-violent way of behaving and how the legality of such things is under question. Remember that lemonade stand I showed you a while back? Well, apparently some people are claiming that it's illegal to have a lemonade cutter like this, and a lemon cutter, rather.
Legal to own a lemonade stand? Yes and no. From what I could find, there are no federal laws that explicitly prohibit the construction or ownership of a lemonade stand. If the chopper is constructed as a historical replica, art piece, or made for educational purposes, how could it possibly be illegal? Now, HOAs and building codes might prohibit the construction of such a device, but I refuse to live under an HOA.
Actually, speaking of an HOA, I do have a related video for that as well.
building codes when it comes to my art installations. I just recently had a code inspector visit me for another structure that I had built. And when he saw the lemon chopper, he just said, "I don't even want to ask," and left it at that. So hopefully I'm in the clear.
What's there to
But if
ask?
not,
It's just for
fuck
lemons.
it. Now, as for what you chop with your device, that's another question.
Exactly.
But if you ask me, I think that we could all use a refreshing glass of lemonade. If you're
I agree. Lemonade is delicious too. Home Meowners Association, that's true.
Hey boss, your wife just told me, but I'm sure I didn't hear that right. Did you just get yourself elected as vice president of the HOA board?
Yeah, I talked to a bunch of homeowners and they're as tired of this thing as I am, so they went ahead and elected me to VP.
If you had the voting power to become vice president, why didn't you just go for the coup de grace and become
By the way,
president?
if you hate your homeowners association, you should run to be the president or VP of it. It's rather easy. Everyone hates the homeowners association.
Yes.
The entire board that's sitting is the original board, and I'm guessing they wanted to protect their power because a new president can't be elected unless ratified by the entire board. Not so with the vice president.
Okay, so now you're the vice president. What good's that going to do?
The president and the vice president have sole veto power over any ordinance, fine, or rule.
This guy's just been going at it with the HOA for a while now, so like it's very funny.
The HOA board to be decided.
I guess that's one way to do checks and balances. Why did they think that would always work in their favor, though?
Probably because the president and vice president were founding members of the board and HOA as it was. They were husband and wife.
So what's your end game here?
Oh, I'm going to veto every new fine and rule and ordinance
There you
until
go.
they finally crack. If you keep them from collecting money long enough, they're going to choke. They'll have to disband and they're going to try and reform. Not enough people that live here are going to want to reform the HOA.
All right, well, if you can't solve the problem, be the problem.
Just goes to show how running for office and winning an election could do a lot for you in your local community. That's one example of some incredibly annoying people who can be removed from the position of which they annoy you from by you participating in democracy. So, you know, there's that, which is nice. Less nice is the fact that we're just... This kind of stuff happens all the time. And in the past, we've had government bodies whose job was to kind of try and clean this up. And now we just leave it to the private companies, so I'm not exactly hopeful. I told my dad to run for HOA VP. Good, based.
24/7. So we're seeing this video to our monitors. The U.S. Coast Guard is now federalizing this response to this oil spill off the Louisiana coastline.
It's very funny because the Coast Guard federalizing would have been a whole lot easier if we still had, let's say, something like FEMA, or if the EPA was still functional when it comes to an oil spill.
And officials say as much as 100,000 gallons of the stuff poured into the Gulf this week. The marshlands polluted, ecosystems exposed, dangerous toxins there in the water. So let's go over to CBS News reporter Katie Wise near the scene. Katie, you always bring these stories home from our local communities, especially for the proud people of Louisiana. What's the impact there?
It's just DEI.
Well, good afternoon. It's been a very difficult week for first responders to get this spill contained. I'm told it's still very much an actively spraying spill from the leak site. In fact, it's been described like a geyser of oil shooting.
Yeah, the thing is, when you are drilling or like mining oil, I mean, not mining oil, but drilling for oil, once you open like an oil well, you don't just, it doesn't just shut very easily. It takes effort to do that. And when it is an area like this, that's really hard to do. The pollution is actually good for the environment, for the corporate environment, rather. Yeah, this will kill thousands. Yeah, it will. It'll also fuck with food being grown in the region, because this is Louisiana, so this will fuck with food being grown all around the Gulf of Mexico, really. Or, sorry, Gulf of America. Don't cancel me for being too, not woke. Not woke enough, rather.
30 to 40 feet up in the air, out of the ocean, into nearby wildlife and protected areas as well. And I'm told that it's taking an effort of more than 170 people to try to help contain this spill. Yesterday, I was able to speak with the captain from the Coast Guard. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about this response. What can you tell us about, potential reasons for this happening?
So it's hard to guess what the reason is, but We do know we are dealing with a well that was initially drilled back in 1942. So there's
it's old as
which
fuck,
has been there for a long time. So that is also part of the complications in planning for how we are going to actively secure the well. So it's understanding the integrity of the line and making sure that once we are there, we're ready to respond to anything that may come up.
Yeah, okay, they're pretty bad. We don't actually need food or vaccines or healthcare. Yeah, I'm sure. Either the oil is pressurized, so you actually have to plug the well. Yeah, and that's not easy to do when it's spraying shit 30 feet into the air. It's kind of difficult to do that. Stop dead naming a lake of water. You calling it a lake of water is actually anti-woke, and you're going to the gulags for that. Do you know how stupid we are as a country? Like, genuinely, the level of brain rot that the American people have obtained. Because $1 for white American cheese. I got charged $1 for being a white American. This is racist bullshit. I mean, like, this kind of stuff isn't new, but it just really hammers home that we are unbearably stupid. Just to a degree of, it's not enough, honestly. Oh, we gotta tariff the white Americans. My God. Well, actually, it's, now going to be difficult to do something like that. So here is H.R. 867, a bill that is in Congress now, was introduced by Michael Lawler, and this bill is the anti-boycott bill. This bill expands an anti-boycott law to include certain boycotts imposed by international governments, or IGOs. Currently, law prohibits various actions by U.S. persons, individuals, or entities in relation to boycotts imposed by foreign governments on a country which is friendly to the United States, and that it itself is not the subject of U.S. boycott. This bill applies those prohibitions to similar boycotts imposed by IGOs. Prohibited actions include 1. Refusing to do business with companies organized under the laws of the boycotted country, if the refusal is pursuant to an agreement with request from the country or IGO imposing the boycott. 2. Stop refusing to employ any U.S. persons on the basis of age, race, religion, sex, or national origin. And 3. Furnishing information about whether someone is associated with charitable or fraternal organizations that supports the boycotted country. This basically makes it so that the UN can't boycott like American goods for some specific things. Like, they can't organize it. They still can. It's just illegal in the US for them to organize through an international organization, which does kind of nothing, but also it just makes it a little bit more difficult, is all. Every tax paying year is $1 added to the cost. I do kind of like that. Although I want that to be applied to rich people on a 10-to-1 basis. So for every year they get taxed 10 times more. So not just $10, because they'd already start off at a higher amount anyway. No, I just feel like I think that it's rage baiting, feeding the racist people. Well, it is. Rage baiting has been an issue for a while, especially in American politics, because we love to do that. Hi, white American is kind of cheese. Did anyone point that out yet? I did indeed point that out. That's what that was about. It was about cheese, and the fact that we are unbearably stupid as a country. But normal individuals and orgs still can, for now, but again, Shufu Poofer, the law is iffy at best. The government of the United States has devolved into Game of Thrones very quickly. So like I don't know anymore. Does the king say so? Oh, I added the exponent that should cover it. Exponential, exponential growing. Murdoch does love rage baiting our Australian press. I love rage baiting the Australian press as well, and I'm going to later. soon actually. There was quite a lot of rage coming from Sky News and other right-wing media in Australia at the end of that election. And it's really good to savor that. We should bring back ostracization. Every year we exile one person that we don't like for 10 years. I agree. I think we could make that work. Yes, I did see. Actually, that is the next segment. So this was posted by the White House. Yeah, there's no way to enforce that, did so. Happy May 4th to you all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring Sith Lords, murderers, drug lords, and dangerous prisoners and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy. You're not the rebellion, you're the Empire. It's... first of all, I don't like Star Wars. Like, I've watched the original trilogy and, like, the 3 after. I have not seen any of the new movies. I don't care. But I do know that first, it is very funny that they gave him a red lightsaber. and like, you're calling the radical left the Empire? Motherfucker, you are the president. This is the official White House Twitter. Yeah, actually. Like, I'm not kidding. This is the official White House Twitter page. Is the Empire. You were bringing radical Sith Lords back into the galaxy. I don't know of that plan, but I do support it. Republican voters, wait, am I a stormtrooper? Yeah. I hope that this, like, turned a couple of Star Wars fans against the right, because half of Star Wars content online is filled with right-wing, like, messaging, and but it is very funny. Whoever, like, they surely had AI write this, right? This gives me the vibe. In order to ensure the security and containing stability, the Republic will be organized into the First Galactic Empire for a safe and secure society. Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of their whole shtick, isn't it? They're so childish. This shit would hit hard if you're 12. U.S. Department of Labor. Hole up, let him cook with a fucking Toy Story picture. Here's the White House again. Lo-fi MAGA video to relax and study to, with another giblified version of Trump. Like, this is incredibly pathetic, but it is also on par with fascism. Like, this makes sense. There was the idea that they wanted to make Trump the Pope. They thought that was a good idea. Yeah. Who the fuck are these posts even for? For Trump. Like, for Donald. Most of these are for Donald Trump. I don't know who the fuck is listening to lo-fi MAGA videos. I don't know what that even means. Is it just like ASMR racism? That's disgusting, actually. Yeah, this is Groiper bait. That's also true. Like, there was actual elected officials on television talking about how having the US president at the same time as being president, being the Pope, would actually be awesome. ASM racism, yeah. It's wild. And then, of course, there's the May the 4th be with you with the red fucking lightsaber. We are a joke of a country, like, genuinely. But remember that it's not just a joke. There is seriousness behind this, because, I mean, yes, we can look at all the memes. Yes, we are the evil empire, but you can also just listen to the man talk.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me. And they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
But...
yeah. Excuse me, what is correct? Jajex, it's the sultry sound of crucifixes burning on front lawns. That's true. There are plenty of trad cats, so, like, some of them are still MAGA, but mostly yes. Fuck Twitter, I agree. Honestly, I just don't really use it much anymore. But no, hold up. Yeah, do you have to uphold the Constitution? No, I don't actually, is on point. He looks very decrepit today, more and more every day, really.
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me. And
see, here's the thing that I'm getting from this. It's that he doesn't actually know what he's doing. No one tells him anything. He's asking his lawyers, and they're telling him, and he believes what they tell him. So he only knows as far as he's been told. And remember, he's not good at keeping secrets, so they just don't tell him anything. They just tell him to sign on the dotted line. Like, we really are in a Game of Thrones government where the king is old and decrepit and about to die, and there is no heir that's been named to the throne. So everybody is like, trying to make grandpa happy to get on the will before he kicks the bucket. Like, that's where we are as a state right now.
they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
But
like, he knows what he thinks he knows what he's doing, but he only knows as much as he's being told. He's just the car that the zombies drove to the White House. And I agree. He's clueless because his brain is soup, but he thinks he's a super genius. But the funniest part about all of this, right, to me, is we already know who the heir to the throne is. Trump's already said it's not J.D. Vance. So when he kicks the bucket, who's the next person's dick that they're going to suck? It's Barron, because they want monarchy. They've said monarchy over and over and over again. They keep making jokes about him being a king. That's the heir to the throne. And all of the little shits that are running around trying to, brown nose to Trump, thinking, they might end up. Wouldn't it go to Eric? No, because, Eric's a cokehead and nobody likes him, but everybody on the right, especially young people, love Barron. Barron's his favorite son. So, that's the heir to the throne. At least that would be my guess. Also, in relation to due process.
Criminal people, and they're here illegally. So, they talk about your next question will be due process, but they talk about due process, but do you get due process when you're here illegally?
Yes, you do. But he doesn't know this because he doesn't actually read. He just bases this shit on what he's told. Barron talks with a slightly German accent because he spent more time with his nanny than with his dad. Yeah, I do, actually. That meme was very famous. But, by the way, when I call MAGA zombies, look at them and tell me that they're not. Look at this video and tell me that this doesn't give off, The Shining, fucking zombies rising from the grave vibes. Look at this.
Dictator! Liar! Dictator! Liar! Liar! Dictator!
Just the lady going by is really creepy. Uncanny valley from these people, but just the most decrepit, shittiest people that you know. But, no, this is zombie behavior. Zombie behavior. All of them start to turn. There's huh? Food? Food? Ah! That's what's happening here. What's up, Long Leg Homo sapien? This is zombie behavior. One Nation voters here in Australia. That's because Australians are Americans, Jajex. We're not all that different. They have nothing in their heads. They're less than human literal zombies. That's why I called them subhuman, because you need to have thought in your head. You need to be a person. You look extra nice today, special occasion. Thank you. I'm in a good mood because Labor won the election. And that made me very, very happy. And the way that Labor won the election made me even happier, especially with Canada just before. It's just been W's, and it's a good day. It's a good day. Subhuman in chat right now? What? Nah. So before we jump over to Australia, this, in my view, is what America is like right now. This is the law.
Critiquing America is now terrorism. But what if we critique the people that run America? Asking questions that may even insinuate the laws are wrong is now illegal. So what if I got a problem with living here? Having a problem with living here is illegal. Okay, so what if like innocent people getting killed and like my rights are being infringed on? All heroes will be shot. Well, can I critique the president? The president was picked by God. Okay, well, I'm gonna just stand up and start a revolution then. Well, you and anybody that see what you do or was a part of it will be shot. Y'all can't shoot everybody. We will shoot everybody.
Like that. That's the state of the country. All heroes will be shot. We will shoot everybody. Like, yeah.
Critiquing America is now terrorism. But what if we critique the people that run America? Asking questions that may even insinuate the laws are wrong is now illegal. So what if I got a problem with living here? Having a problem with living here is illegal. Okay, so what if like innocent people getting killed and like my rights are being infringed on? All heroes will be shot.
I can't get over that part.
Can I critique the president? The president was picked by God. Okay, well, I'm gonna just stand up and start a revolution then. Well, you and anybody that see what you do or was a part of it will be shot. Y'all can't shoot everybody.
We will shoot everybody. That's MAGA for you. All right. Let's transition away from the wasteland and have a look at a functional country. But I gotta ease you over to the Aussie side, so let's hear the most Australian way to talk about fishing first. Not that I know much about fishing, but this just gives violently Australian vibes.
Look at this fucking bait stealing cunt. What am I gonna do, cunt? Now I'm gonna go home and tell me kids that they're eating thin air! You fucking dog! You dog cunt! Oh, I hate your— choke on it!
You dog cunt.
Thin air! You fucking dog! You dog cunt! Oh, I hate—
Okay, so that's the average accent of the Australian tradie. It's actually very consistent across the board, no matter where you are in the country. Calling a Ray a dog cunt is crazy. Well, calling somebody a dog cunt is like an actual thing. That's one of the variants. It's one of the... It adds with the rule, you know, if it starts with the word cunt, it's usually a good thing. And if it ends with it, it's usually a bad thing. This is a reverse, where it ends in it and is a bad thing. But it is what it is. Odd looking dog, that's true. So the election here went so poorly for the Liberal Party, though, that they're basically just a regional Queensland party now. Australian election results map. Language is truly beautiful. I agree. So, let me find, I should have actually opened up a map of the full seats here before that, but that's okay. Give me a map, damn it. That's like the other way around, Viz. Like, if I said, cunt, you're cooked, that's bad, but if I said, you're cooked, cunt, that's a good thing. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this is the opposite, like, of that rule. That's usually the rule, and this is the opposite because this is a case in which it ends in the word cunt, but it is also a negative thing because calling someone, like, a dog cunt isn't good. Here we go. Here's a map. So, like, if you can see, now, yes, there's a lot of blue. And the reason that all of this blue is not a problem is because nobody lives here. Is basically nobody lives here. It's bad. It was really bad. Like, this is even in Queensland. They got utterly destroyed. We're gonna have a look at some of the Sky News hosts and their facial reactions to Labor's victory, which are amazing. And honestly, a lot more of that coverage is just it's good to celebrate a W when we get one, and it's been too long since we've had a W. Aye. Very good. God, Liberals have been defeated somewhere. I mean, yeah. How lucky was the world that the American election came first? Incredibly. Like, Trump definitely did have an impact here, but it wasn't just Trump. But it did look like the Liberal Party was going to win until he pissed everyone off. You mean that the land doesn't vote? Well, it does. I think indigenous folks do get to vote, and they're the only people that live out there. And I feel like they are the land because it's their land. That face should be an emote. I agree. Peter's face is priceless. All of their faces are priceless. And again, the Liberals here are the equivalent of the Republicans. The Liberal Party in Australia are conservatives. The, Labour Party is still better than the Democrats. They're not quite as bad, but they are the conservatives. We don't actually have the Conservative Party. We have the Conservative National, the Liberal National Coalition, which ends up being the Conservative Party. Depending on, how deep you want to go look into the minor parties, it does get worse. There are worse minor parties, but broadly, we are looking at, the Liberals being Republicans in the era of Obama. So, you want to know why I think Albanese won, and I don't think that it's Trump? Trump definitely had an effect, but it's not that. The reason that Albanese won is because he did stuff like this.
Do you reckon I could do that? Delulu with no Salulu. To speak about a stronger economy and to speak about fiscal policy. Well, Mr. Speaker, they are Delulu with no Salulu, Mr. Speaker. They are completely delusional.
Delulu with no Salulu. But, the point is, not even that it's funny, it's that, you go on a talk show host and they're like, I dare you to drop that in a speech. And he's like, hell yeah, I will. Albanese felt like a regular human being, whereas Dutton just doesn't. Congrats on your landslide, I assume is already the topic right now. Hell yeah, and love the eyeshadow, by the way. Thank you. It's great. And this is what I mean by lean into the cringe, because a lot of people made fun of this, or oh, that's cringe. It is cringe, but it's also humid, and it's joy. It made me laugh.
I reckon I could do that. Delulu with no Salulu. To speak about a stronger economy and to speak about fiscal policy. Well, Mr. Speaker, they are Delulu with no Salulu, Mr. Speaker.
I didn't realize it was a dare either. Made it so much better. He did what Hillary tried to do with Pokemon Go to the polls. Shoofa Pooper, you know that if Hillary won that election, that people today would still be saying that shit. Dutton does seem like a fucking droid in a skin suit. He does!
They are completely delusional.
And he's not very good at talking. And then on top of that, look at this. This is the Prime Minister, while already Prime Minister, goes to a pub and has a drink with another content creator, and also calls him out. He feels human.
Cheers to the pub.
Cheers to the pub,
Cheers
absolutely.
to the pub. All right, well, going on to bloody...
You
war.
broke a rule there.
What did I break? What did I break?
You said cheers to the pub.
Yeah.
And then you put your beer down. You got to have a sip.
I didn't sip after the cheers.
It's in the rules.
I fucked it up. The country's going to be like, vote Aussie man out.
Lucky,
Get his YouTube
lucky you're
channels
not on
gone.
the ballot paper.
Yeah, do you want to know my policies?
Oh, why not? We're a democracy.
It's like, oh, some bloke at the pub, fine, why not?
Right, you still haven't.
Sorry.
That's two.
Shit. I'm getting too talking
One
politics.
more and we'll take you off the roll.
Yeah, this man has friends. That's a great
Cheers
way
to
to
the
put it, long leg Homo sapien. This man has people in his life who like being around him. He has friends. He's the Prime Minister calling out the content creator, that's twice now that you fucked up your own rules. Third time, I'm taking your show away from you. Smart move. Aussie has 8 million subscribers on YouTube. God damn. That is a lot. And it was a smart move to go on there. Dude has aura, but that's what I mean. Doing this kind of stuff is why he won. It's not just the Trump effect. It just helped them. I would, when I, as an American, imagine a good candidate, I think about somebody like this. Somebody who feels like they have friends. That they exist in a space that isn't just, corporations and people who are sycophants. Alba went on a radio station, Nova, and had mad banter with the host, and then requested the song Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again? That's kind of ace. Yeah, if I wanted to see that kind of idiocy, I'd watch Fox News. The thing is, we're past that idiocy. Now we're talking about Australia. headless chicken. I don't know what you're on about. Like, what's the idiocy here? What's wrong with this? I'm saying this is why Labor won, is because this is respectable. This is human. This makes sense as to how a person acts. This is what you get when you're a good human being. This is the kind of reaction people give to you. Hey, elbow, you sick cunt. Like, it's approval. Ah, fair enough. Like, I thought we were on the topic. The fact that the prime minister is getting called a sick cunt by some random person driving past, like, on the street, that's a huge deal. Yeah, it's a term of endearment. A sick cunt is a good thing. Remember Scott Morrison, the last Liberal prime minister, after the fires, where he went to some of the towns and people wouldn't want to shake his hand. People told him to get fucked. Like, we are much more inclined to verbally show how we feel about our politicians. In Australia, is it impossible to get a lady friend? No. It's pretty easy. You just have to, like, talk to people like a normal person. Go, like, compliment somebody and then walk away from them and then see if they, like, strike up a conversation with you the next time you see them. Or go and, I don't know, actually, like, hit on somebody, but, you know, you got to do it in a way that isn't creepy and, like, all of that. We can talk about that more if you guys are, like, into the subject. But yeah, it's not that hard. You just, like, be authentic. It's approval and love instead of, like, groveling and brown-nosing like everyone has to do with Trump. Exactly. And that's why I wanted to show you Trump first, because everyone does brown-nose Trump. That's the whole administration. Like I said, like, the American government right now is in the Game of Thrones model of the king's about to die, so let's all try and, like, get on the king's good side so he can put us on the will. I want to be the heir. We don't have an official heir. In America, it feels like that you have to vet yourself. No, that's just what they want you to believe. People, just be authentic. If you're authentic, people will enjoy being around you more. Period. Like, it's just that simple. And you also be a progressive. That tends to help as well. Look at this, though. This is again, 7 News. So this is Murdoch media coverage. Or is 7 Murdoch? I know 9's not, but whatever. This is right-wing media coverage on election night. It's great.
Dixon, you lost your leader. Bass, Braddon, the old bellwethers. They've come to the Labor Party. Menzies, Casey's, Deakin, Hughes, Banks. It's decimated the front bench. It's cut off the head of the party. It is a catastrophic defeat. The party that chose nuclear energy as its policy has...
If I could ever have the joy of hearing this about the Republicans, the head of, like, they cut the head off the party, the coalition is collapsed, there is no, like the doom and gloom of this, but for Republicans in America, would bring me so much joy. It's just another billionaires channel, I can't remember the name, just another dog cunt.
Has exploded in a... chose nuclear energy as its policy, has exploded in a nuclear bomb set on them by the voters tonight.
I want to hear that. I want to hear that in America.
Bass, Braddon, the old bellwethers, they've come...
You lost Florida. You lost North Carolina. You lost Iowa. You lost Idaho. What? You lost South Carolina too? Like, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear you lost Texas. We got Blexus now.
To the Labor Party, Menzies, Casey's, Deakin, Hughes, Banks.
That's the equivalent.
It's decimated
you
the front
lost
bench.
The whole South.
It's cut off the head of the party.
Yeah.
It is a catastrophic defeat. The party that chose nuclear energy as its policy has exploded in a nuclear bomb set on them by the voters tonight.
It would be glorious. I would very much enjoy. I need that in my life, really. But for the time being, I suppose we can make do with the politics of other countries.
Northern Territory Senator Jacinta Price
Oh no, this is so quiet, but this is like such a good video. Hold on.
Northern Territory Senator Jacinta Price. Jacinta, Peter Dutton tonight has lost his seat. With your embrace of Donald Trump, Make Australia Great Again, are you part of the reason for that loss?
Oh, that's a big call, don't you think? When you sling enough mud in an election, it sticks. And we did see a Prime Minister...
So she came out and said that Donald Trump will make Australia great again and help Peter Dutton to do it. So asking her, like, do you think that this contributed to the loss of the Liberal Party? Her answer of, that's a bit rude, don't you think?
Jacinta,
I love it. I love it.
Dutton tonight has
And
lost his seat.
it did
With
make a
your
difference.
embrace of Donald Trump, Make Australia Great Again, are you part of the reason for that loss?
Calling him Timu Trump, I don't think had
That's a big call, don't you think?
that much of a effect on it. I never liked the nickname Timu Trump because it sounded very 2016 resist libish, but like that's my American brain, so who knows. But also, like, listen to Dutton talk. He was not good at this.
Quick fire question.
I don't
This
know
one
how he had this job for 20 years.
comes from Leanne in Sydney. Are either of you a part of the LGBTQ community, Mr. Prime Minister?
No.
Mr. Dutton, a response?
That's not a truthful answer from the Prime Minister there.
Yes, it is.
It's not. That's the reality.
It's just.
You preference them. They preference you.
untruth.
It's just like, well, the Albo's gay. That's what he just, like, literally.
Fire question. This one comes from Leanne in Sydney. Are either of you a part of the LGBTQ community, Mr. Prime Minister?
No.
Mr. Dutton, a response?
That's not a truthful answer from the Prime Minister there.
No, he's gay.
It's not. That's the reality.
It's just.
You preference them. They preference you.
untruth.
Guys, just a simple yes or no answer. Are either of you in the LGBT community?
Prime Minister, you couldn't lie straight in bed. Honestly, this is unbelievable.
You can go to abuse.
No, well, it's just
you can
it's
go to
just the
personal
reality.
abuse. That's a sign of desperation, Peter. Frankly,
as he's lying.
That's a sign of desperation.
Oh, God, I love Albanese. That's a sign of desperation, Peter, frankly, but you can do that. He can be an honorary gay, honestly. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Fucking Anthony Albanese. You get your honorary queer card. And, like, remember that the media environment here is worse than America, and we ended up with these odds. Murdoch owns, like, 90% of the media here. The other 10%, probably like 8% of that is also owned by right-wing billionaires. And then we still have the online, like, misinformation issue. There was a lot that made me afraid for this. And Labor still not only won, but won in a landslide victory. Like, I didn't know about this until today. And this is after the election. This was a Russian website to do propaganda for the Aussie election.
Exclusive ABC investigation has revealed that a largely automated pro-Russian news website has been used to launder propaganda on Australian topics in the lead up to the election. National Technology...
Long Leg Homo Sapien, the reason for it is because Australians can't be convinced to care enough. I'm not kidding. One of the largest, like, I've actually talked to somebody who's written a PhD on fascism about this in Australia. She was writing her thesis on the subject last year of why it's difficult to Nazify Australia, even though America's been trying for years. And it's because the average Australian has the mentality of, nah, she'll be right, and just can't be bothered to get to, like, put the effort in to getting radicalized. You need a lot of anger and fear, and you need to have that consistently to be able to develop that cultish behavior, and getting that fire, that fear, that anger in the Australian public is not difficult, but keeping it sustained, now that's hard, because, like, we have drive-through liquor stores, guys. So the amount of shit we get fed here against the Labour Party is in the media is ridiculous. Zhazhek, the Labour Party got shittier coverage from the, like, was mentioned more in shitty headlines by the media last year than China was. Hey, so do we in Ohio? Exactly. But, like, you guys aren't the type to say, nah, I just couldn't give a fuck. You like, this Ohioans clearly give one too many of a fuck just about the wrong thing. It's like, I just want to grill mentality, but it's so strong it's become a shield? Kinda, yeah. Does Australia have a decent middle class? If so, I think it contributes. And does it contribute to the lack of discontent? Well, it did, and that decently sized, like, middle class, working class group has been being slowly cut away. And cost of living was one of the primary, like, concerns of this election. And again, it also helped that part of Labor's strategy was, let's give people shit that they want. That helps.
Reporter Angela.
Here, let me just...
It is that it's located, and it's seen by intelligence analysts who we spoke to, who pointed it out to us. They discovered it. That it's seen as it's pro-Russian, certainly, and it's seen as an attempt to, influence the domestic environments of all those different countries with,
It didn't. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. That's fine, but thank you. And you want to know one of the reasons why? Because, voting is mandatory in Australia, but this is one of the things that we do that make voting a community activity. First of all, it's done on a weekend, so you don't have work. And if you do have work, they have to give you time to vote because you have to vote. And so if you have to vote, just like everybody else, you spend some time trying to make it a nice experience for the community.
Democracy sausage.
I had this stuck in my head all morning.
We're gone crazy. We're all on edge. Democracy sausage.
You mean you don't vote on a fucking Tuesday? No. I voted so early I missed the sausages. I hope you went and had one anyway. This is what America could have. True. It's literally just bread and sausages. Seems like you actually want people to vote. Yeah, we do. That's why it's illegal to not vote. You get fined for not voting. Here's the history of the democracy sausage.
The sausage sizzle provides a connection to the common person. The smell of the onions, the smell of the sausages, the sauces, the breads.
Nothing barbecue, nothing like.
You're connecting with your community.
Who wants a sausage?
Onion?
That's part of what is the democracy sausage.
Fair shake for all.
A fair shake for all, holding up a fucking ketchup. That's I like that. That's culture.
The first elections in the Australian colonies were in the early 1840s. It was all pretty open and public. They'd cheer or boo. There was also a lot of bribery. People got drunker and drunker as the day went on. And actually at the first election there was a lot of rioting and 2 people were killed. There was a lot of
to
popular...
be fair, Bound, a lot of your people are Nazis. Not all of them, but a lot of them are.
Demand
I call you people zombies.
Manhood suffrage, that is that men would be able to vote with no property qualifications. This greatly expanded the number of people who would be turning up to vote on election day. There was also a demand for a secret ballot. Political candidates were banned from providing food and drink.
I agree. Long live Homo sapien. Just do it. Just go up to the polling place beforehand and say, go to the electoral commission for your local town. Be like, hey, can I set up a barbecue and just give out hot dogs? We can community fund it. It could be a whole thing. We won't charge any money. And can we just, or we'll charge $2 per hot dog and then just set up outside the polling place. I'm sure you can make that work. If not, across the street, hot dog stand, donuts, something. Yeah. It makes people actually want to show up.
Fine weather in most parts of Australia encouraged early voting.
You get your democracy sausage after you vote. It doesn't taste as good if you do it before.
Was introduced in 1913. Meant that it was easy, people could take their kids to the polling booth. Polling booths were generally in community buildings. by the 1920s, there's evidence of fundraising committees, generally women with stalls selling cakes and jam and things like that. The invention of the portable gas barbecue then meant that the sausage sizzle became something that joined the fundraising repertoire.
Yeah, by the way, to the Americans, a Bunnings is basically a Home Depot, and basically anytime you go to Home Depot and leave, you can buy a sausage sizzle. They will have them outside the Bunnings. I wish we had compulsory voting the day off. If you don't want to vote, you have to manually check no vote. Yeah, essentially. I would love to.
I'm concerned more for what happens in the next election, the escalation, if you like.
You mean they might offer coleslaw or something?
I mean, why isn't that considered the patriotic thing to do? I mean, here it is. It is a patriotic thing to do. Having your sausage sizzle, your democracy sausage, is a matter of patriotism. In fact, like Cat Piss said it earlier, it tastes better as a democracy sausage rather than just a regular sausage sizzle because of the democracy aspect.
Next time round.
We've found references to a scandal where a political candidate provided a sausage sizzle and it was suggested that he was attempting to bribe the members of the public.
Could you buy a vote for a sausage?
You'd have to answer that question yourself.
One from the Democracy Sausage Project.
How can you force voting if you don't want voter ID? By making it so when you turn into like an adult, when you turn 18, you have to register to vote, and you are forced to register like when you do it, and then at that point you're registered to vote forever. And if you don't vote, it's a fine and can actually be a jail sentence depending on it. And also, like, you already have voter ID in America, and we already have it here. There was no lack of voter ID in America. You couldn't vote without ID ever. That was never a thing. Also, thanks for the sub, Headless Chicken.
We started as a bit of a joke, but we now take it on as a community responsibility.
They're already always watching. Might as well make it so you all have to vote.
DemocracySausage.org maps election day fundraisers. People who want to go and vote, they can go to our website and find out what's near them.
I do. I don't actually post much on it. I should, but like I don't paywall content, so like it's just there in case you want to sub to my Patreon. They do have a free option as well. In case I do. Sometimes like if I write something for whatchamacallit, Substack, I'll also put it on Patreon, but like that's it.
The term democracy sausage are ones that have been lost a little bit to the internet.
Yep.
We started using it in 2013 after seeing one tweet mentioning it.
And I appreciate it.
In 2016, democracy sausage was made the word of the year in Australia.
The year of 2016 was the year the democracy sausage was made word of the year here.
Go again. Very kind of you, but I think I'm running around a bit much to be eating that.
Tools down for a minute while he has his sausage.
I think that we're heading to a bumper year.
Not gonna happen.
You don't just vote and leave. You vote, you get a sausage, you eat a sausage, maybe you decide you want to drink.
We get a donation.
It provides a great
Maybe you chat
opportunity
with some people, like, yeah.
for people to engage with the community.
Thank you. Taste of democracy, very good.
Go and follow Headless Chicken, and I think actually Shard did that because they are better than me. But you're welcome anyway. It's basically a hot dog. It is just a hot dog. Although Australians get really mad when you compare sausages to hot dogs because they say that they're not the same thing. They're the same thing. Sausage is like a thicker hot dog, I guess, or like made from not pig anuses. You get some onions on the side, you get some condiments, and you have it on square bread. Fine, then I take it back and give it to Spork. You happy now? So I can't be like non-truthful. It has to be on square bread though. We don't fuck with hot dog buns. Looks like they butter the bread. I've never seen them do that, but you know, I can see it. I can see it happening. No, I'm never happy. Jesus Christ. Alright, let's jump back to Australia. Now, I gotta pee, but we are gonna watch Albanese's full acceptance speech. Just because I really want to get a feel for where we're at here, but there's a bunch of stuff that we gotta watch first, because that's gonna be like 20 minutes. And I want to get a decent like picture of the election first. But I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back, and then we will have a look at how this happened. How we won. Sorry about that. I'm back. But also, check out the fit. I am very much enjoying myself today. Oy, chair stream, exactly. This is a fake streamer room. I see no dead bodies like in Asmon's room. Jeez, I would hope not. Trump just told everyone to our face that he doesn't have to follow the Constitution. Yeah, I know. I covered it. It is pretty bad. Like I said, this is the United States right here. Where's my video? I enjoyed it very much the first time. We're gonna watch it again because I still enjoy it. Whoa! Whoa. I did not ask any of you to start autoplaying. And thank you.
Critiquing America is now terrorism. But what if we critique the people that run America? Asking questions that may even insinuate the laws are wrong is now illegal. So what if I got a problem with living here? Having a problem with living here is illegal. Okay, so what if like innocent people getting killed and like my rights are being infringed on? All heroes will be shot. Well, can I critique the president? The president was picked by God. Okay, well, I'm gonna just stand up and start a revolution then. Well, you and anybody that see what you do or was a part of it will be shot. Y'all can't shoot everybody. We will shoot everybody.
No, you can't have a little bit of critiquing as a treat. Sorry. Is that the legendary Visora? Am I legendary? I read legendary now. That's cool. What's up, Clean Slate Chatter? You have makeup on? Pretty. I'm doing homework, so I've been listening mostly. I wanted to, you know, enjoy the celebration of the biggest W we've gotten in a while. So, let's see how the opposition leader lost his fucking seat and the election. The first time this has ever happened in Australia.
In this sleepy village outside Brisbane, there's been a major shake-up. This long-time Liberal territory is now in Labor's hands.
What are your thoughts on Peter Dutton losing the seat last night?
I'm pretty happy about it.
I guess I wasn't surprised, really.
Very happy when I woke up to good news this morning.
So why
This
did
is his district?
the voters of Dixon, northwest of Brisbane, buck a 24-year blue seat trend?
Very crass, very aggressive. His ideas and policies might be good, but I think most of them didn't sell well with the public.
I'm not quite sure why.
What was her shirt? I didn't see. Hold on. That's this one? I mean, it looks pretty cool.
I guess I wasn't surprised, really.
Very happy when
Oh, this one. Yeah, that's a interesting shirt. Wild. I dare say this woman is based.
I wake up to good news this morning.
And he is
So
a
why
Muppet
did the
Miss Kinsu.
voters of Dixon, northwest of Brisbane, buck a 24-year blue seat trend?
Very crass, very aggressive. His ideas and policies might be good, but I think most of them didn't sell well with the public.
I'm not quite sure why it's changed, but possibly Trump.
You see him in the interviews and stuff, he never come across as genuine.
While many told the ABC they were concerned about the coalition's stance on nuclear, it was Dutton, the person, not his policies, that ultimately decided their vote.
I think people...
They liked the policies. They're dumb enough to like the policies. They just didn't like him so much that they just voted
were
for
not
someone
really
else.
prepared to put up with what appears to be bully tactics.
I think he shot himself in the foot a few times.
He's Murder Merv. The Liberals are basically a regional Queensland party now.
He's been his own best friend. I don't think he's been the community's best friend.
The seat of Dixon looks very different to how it did when Peter Dutton was first elected in 2001. However, electoral data shows there hasn't been a massive change in the demographic since
that's because Queensland voters are ontologically evil, so...
the last federal election. Many felt that Peter Dutton served the community well as the local member, but that it was time for change.
He's been a good local member for a long time. So
Full offence offended
he's
to
done a
any
good job
Queenslanders.
for the local area.
If he wasn't running for Prime Minister, I reckon he would have still kept his seat.
The hope now for Dixon's future.
Stability like Peter did for a long, long time.
Laura Lavelle, ABC News.
This is the first in 20 years Prime Minister that won 2 back-to-back elections. The first incumbent in 20 years in a political era where incumbents are regularly being ousted from their jobs. Like, it's a big deal. I think they got Flinders and Vico, but that's the rich of the rich. That happens.
You've been following...
They're entirely out of Tasmania. There's not a single Liberal seat left in Tasmania. I know they got kicked entirely out of Adelaide, too.
The numbers all day today. Where are we at nationally now?
Yeah, afternoon, Kath. We should say there's actually not all that much counting that happens on Sunday. The Commission's doing a lot of check counting, making sure there's no errors. There's a lot of work being done to transport all the ballots to central counting centres in secure ways. And so we don't expect to see lots and lots of updates through today. We are getting, little bits and pieces, but the sort of, things that are left to be counted, the preference counts we still need to see.
The counts are going to matter for which seat went where, but this election was such a landslide that they didn't even wait for the votes from Western Australia to come in before declaring that, Labor won. And that's not small, considering Western Australia, I think, decided the last election. Yeah, big surprise, Tasmania went Labor. I think they still have a state Lib leader, though. I'm pretty sure that would be the only Liberal left, but...
They will kick off again in earnest tomorrow. But nonetheless, these numbers have been, shifting in very small ways for the last few hours. 34.6% is the national primary vote for Labor at this stage. Up about 2 points. The coalition sitting at 31.
The Liberals lost 4 points worth of support, 4 percentage points. That's not a small amount.
8 down by about 4 points from last election. The Greens are steady. One Nation is up a small amount. We've got about 13.5% sitting with minors and other.
Yeah, the worst thing is the fact that One Nation is getting 6%. This is the we're racist but not MAGA party. My LNP candidate won, unfortunately. I'm in the MAGA equivalent electorate. Oof. Let's go Fusion Party for the next election. Honestly, I think that is the most based political party that I've come across in my entire life. I need the Fusion Party. The fact that my parents voted Liberal is even more cringe now. Well, I mean, it was always cringe, cat piss. My cousins voted LNP. Oof. Look, it happens. Again, that's why I was so worried. Also, Nationals evaporated, which growing up, they were a big deal. Well, because the Nationals are now either LNP or part of One Nation. They evaporated because they split into Trumpet of Patriots, into One Nation, into the LNP. So yeah.
Party.
The worst part about this is that all of the minor parties that won seats, barring the Greens, are Hitlerite parties, I'm pretty sure. And the Greens aren't exactly good considering they worked with the Liberals last time. The benefit here is that Labor won such a large majority that it might not be as difficult. Sorry, it might be more difficult for their shit to get blocked, even if the Greens end up siding with the Liberal Party.
Have a look at the swing nationally. It's been coming down a little bit as more pre-polls get counted, but it's still more than 3%. Labor sitting on just over 55% of the vote, and as we've been saying, that is a higher two-party preferred than Rudd won in 2007, Whitlam won in 1972, Hawke won in 1983, Chifley won in 1946. So quite the achievement there for Anthony Albanese to be able to rub shoulders with those Labor giants. I'm sure he's feeling quite chuffed with this result, I would have to assume, because it's a result that's well beyond the
Greens
expectations
do recognize Palestine, so does Labor.
Of anyone, really. Here are the seats we've given away at this point. Labor 85, 37 coalition.
Honestly, it is start
10.
time bringing in the mules for fusion. I'm gonna talk more about that fusion party. I'm gonna do more research into them. Find like a candidate or something. They're cool as hell.
And others, throw in the likelies, and you get these are seats that are leaning heavily one way, but we're not quite in a position to call yet. You'll get Labor to 88 and 12 crossbenchers. Labor could get into the low to mid 90s. The coalition could get into the low to mid 40s. Double.
Wild. You want to know what the numbers looked like before this election? You want to know how much the Liberals have actually lost? Here's what Parliament looked like before this election. 58 Liberal National Coalition and 77 Labor. Crossbench is it's the minor parties basically. And now it's 37 and 88. Covered a lot of Palestine history for most of the day, but coping. Well, I'm glad you're coping. That sounds like a rough stream, though. Always fun to talk about Palestine these days. So the crossbench is essentially just the minor parties. Let me just double check. It's where independent senators, members of minor parties sit, crossbench senators and members are elected members of parliament, represent their state or territory. Yeah, so it's also not just the minor parties, but independents sit on the crossbench.
About half, or less than half of what Labor has landed with. And we're seeing that 3% national swing. Why don't I just show you the two states that are swinging the most and the least. The most is Tasmania. We're seeing a swing of about 8% there. This is a Conservative wipeout. The member for Bass, Bridget Archer, she retained
an 8-point swing towards the Labor Party. That's massive.
Her seat last time. This is a seat traditionally known as the ejector seat of politics because no one ever gets re-elected there. Bridget Archer managed it, but she hasn't been able to replicate it for a third term. So no Liberals in Tasmania for Labor and one independent MP. That state's delegation in the lower house. And then Western...
Hearing no Liberals in Tasmania brings me such joy. It's like hearing, oh yes, there's no Republicans left in Ohio. None. All of them are out. Man, this Dutton fellow really fucked up. Yeah, like you gotta be especially hated to end up like that.
Australia, a much more modest looking swing, 1.2% or so, but the context of that is as well, 10.5% was the swing last election. It had the biggest swing, and we've seen one seat flip
so
red.
Last election they had a 10% swing and they still kept going towards Labor this time around.
There, the seat of more, we were expecting...
This is at least 30. Again, they had 55 parliamentary seats before this election. They're currently at, 38? It is kind of like losing most of the House, or like a third of your seats in the House. It is essentially the death of the Liberal Party here.
Everyone was anticipating a story about
for the time being.
The coalition clawing back some seats. The question was how many would they claw back? What a complete backfire of result it is for the Conservatives. They've gone backwards by upwards of 10 seats.
Let's talk about the ones that you're not in a position to call yet, those seats that are still in doubt and what's at play there.
There's a lot.
This was 18 hours ago, so it's not as in play. But remember, while looking at the map, blue here is the Liberals, and we are pro-red. We have the colors swapped, and you'll see a lot of blue, but that's because we only have 28 million people in this country, and Australia is as big as America is landmass wise, and so most of the country doesn't actually live here, and so that's why they're mostly blue. Walkable Australia. I mean, you can walk Australia. It's just not easy.
Kath, about 18 seats remain in doubt. Some of them are a bit clearer than others. Some of them are going to take a long time because we need to see more preference counts. In many cases, the Commission was counting preferences between the incorrect two candidates yesterday, and we need to get those preferences rethrown.
I vote
For
against.
the first time in more than half a century, the South Australian seat of Sturt has fallen into Labor hands, leaving the Liberals without a
First time in nearly half a century.
Single MP from Adelaide. State political reporter Leah McLennan joins us now. And Leah, can you take us through what happened in South Australia?
Well, ahead of the election, there were really only two South Australian electorates that were really attracting interest as ones that could change hands. And that was Boothby in the south of Adelaide and Sturt in the city's east. Now, Boothby was already held by Labor.
They'll need a soul first.
Been won from the Liberals at the previous election by the Labor's Louise Miller-Frost. She had back then about a 3.3% margin. So there was a lot of ground that the Liberals would have had to have made up.
Fucked Nicole Flint.
Up there. It was made a bit more interesting because the Liberals candidate was Nicole Flint. She'd previously been a sitting MP in that seat but had retired. So there was certainly a lot of interest there, but as the polls were consistently favouring Labor throughout the campaign, it became less and less likely that the Liberals were actually going to be able to take that
Clearly,
seat.
so does Sturt.
So attention was
First time in half a century, cat piss.
Squarely on Sturt in the east. That was held by the Liberals' James Stephens, but it had the smallest of margins. It was just 0.5%. And so there was a lot of attention there about what Labor's Claire Clutterham could do. And as it turns out, on election night, the huge swings across the nation, Sturt wasn't immune from those. And it was called, some thought it might have been too close to call on the night, but that's not what eventuated. James Stephens called Claire Clutterham only a few hours into the count, conceded, and then made a speech to his party faithful where he conceded that he had lost the seat of Sturt. And it's the first time that that has happened in more than 50 years. It means that all of the metropolitan seats are now in Labor's hands. There is Mayo, which you could say is a peri-urban seat that's held by...
Every city in the country, every major city is held by a Labor government right now. There is no Liberals left in Tasmania, none left in Adelaide. Do you think it was the anti-Trump vote or actually poor policy from the Libs? I think that Trump played a role, and I was very afraid, but like, genuinely, I think it's that Albanese feels like a human being, and Dutton felt like a machine in a skin suit. Like, it was the fact that he would go and have a drink at the pub. It's like that he would take a dare off of a radio show and then go and do it. I mean, like, here, the Trump campaign tried to have an impact here. This is a Trump campaign chief telling an undercover reporter that he advised the Liberal Party here ahead of the election.
In Australia 2 weeks ago, helping the Liberal Party there on some of their structural issues that they were having with Peter Dutton, and things somewhat seem to be moving in the right direction there.
I'm sure.
If we do decide to go ahead, of course, if you've done any thinking about how an announcement like this might play in a place like, I know in Albania, I think your announcement played very well.
Yeah, that's a little different. That's
like, the Russians tried to influence this. The Americans do too. It is.
Yeah,
but we might need to finagle that one a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in that level of attention at all.
No, it would be a different beast.
Like, the Liberal Party has to be fucking nuts to get Trump advisors after seeing how bad that shit screwed up with the Canadian Conservatives. That's why they lost. They listened to America. Yeah.
And I'm not. No.
It was bad policy on their part.
Generally, the way I believe it or not, roll his eyes, but I try to maintain a degree of discretion. The Albanians had a different mindset. That's one place where American meddling in their elections is encouraged. Right. Everywhere else,
Is it?
not so much.
Okay.
But it's every client is different. But
And
yeah.
so, like in different, like in the Australia context, I think you mentioned last time, like that's you've handled that differently, and that's worked out.
Yeah,
well.
they never knew I was there.
Right.
Oh, well, we do now. We do now. Oh, yeah, I forgot. We do have some bad news, and that's that Reform won the by-elections in the UK, but that's not necessarily surprising. Dead country syndrome and all. So, on the question of whether or not Trump actually had an effect here, I can listen to the talking heads on the subject, but I feel like we'll do that after we listen to Albo's speech. I want to get some of the necessities out the way. Actually, well, Trump is going to play a role coming from the win into what happens next as well, and we're going to talk about how Australia might change its behavior in relation to America with trade, because you have to remember that we are incredibly important to America, but we are also China's closest trading partner, both like they're our biggest importer, and they are closer to us than America is at all, like in any way. The big turning point was Albo standing up to Trump during the tariffs and saying this isn't what friends do to each other. That also was a big part of it. The UK is just accelerating into trans genocide. It's not like it can get worse, right? I mean, it definitely can. What did they got timed out for? Now I'm curious. I gotta see.
Remarkable election night. Let's look at the figures as they are the next day. The Labor Party is just under 35%, the Coalition 32%, Greens 12%, others 13%, One Nation 6%. That's translating into a 3% swing to Labor. It's only the fifth swing to a government in 60 years, the first swing to a first-term government in a century. Labor's vote 55.1%. That's up towards the level of 1943 when Labor was dominant before the formation of the Liberal Party, and it's the worst result for the Coalition since then as well. Let's look at the seats in the chamber. The Labor Party has a definite 86 seats. Now, Tony Abbott won 90 seats in the landslide in 2013, so that's the sort of level the Labor Party's got, and there's still some seats in doubt. The Liberal Coalition on 39%.
They were up to 88, remember last we saw.
39 seats, others 11. There's a few seats where the Greens could win, perhaps 3 seats. They just haven't been confirmed yet.
The Greens
now look
also
at the members
out.
that have been defeated.
Yeah, once
for,
in a century
for the
level
coalition.
L.
There's David Coleman, a front bencher, Michael Sukkar, a front bencher, Peter Dutton, of course, the leader, Keith Wallahan, an upcoming member. That's all but one of those seats is an urban seat, one of the capital city seats. The Liberal Party did badly in inner cities last time. That's spread further out to other city seats. The cities of Australia, most of the Liberal Party seats have been defeated all across the country. And if we look at what's happened for the Labor Party, they've got a sea of red coming into the chamber. Some of them in defeating sitting members for the Liberal Party. Some of them replacing retiring members. But the difference between those blue seats...
Who would have thought that we'd be celebrating a red wave over here? Last election with Anthony. It's okay. I hope the win here shows the Labor Party that just being good at, I don't know, working for the public will get them a win, and the next one will be even better.
Seats going out of the chamber and the sea of red coming in shows the scale of Labor's victory. This is a real fucking
mandate victory, by the way. Talking about like the red wave, this is what a real mandate looks like. When everyone that mattered on the other side lost their election, including the frontrunner.
Optimism from the outset, with high hopes of a green slide. But as the night dragged on, reality came sliding down. The party failed to expand its reach.
There may well be a number of seats that are too close to call.
Or even hold ground.
There's no such thing as a safe seat anymore. You know, the 2022 election showed that. We feel like it's going to be really close. It's going to be really tight.
Personally, fuck the Greens, but that's because they sided with the LNP and blocked Labor's policies throughout the entirety of the last administration. I really hope that the majority is big enough now that they can't block shit as easily. Sad that Max Chandler Mathers looks like he's lost Griffith. I mean, at least we won pretty largely.
Losses in 2 of 3 Queensland seats picked up at the last election, the inner city seats of Griffith and Brisbane.
We may see the situation where some Labor MPs get elected on Liberal preferences.
Like, I'm not necessarily anti-Greens entirely. There are some that I like, but the party on a federal level, not my thing. Fusion is way better, honestly.
There's too close to call in Ryan and in the leader's own electorate of Melbourne.
In some of our seats, in Queensland, of course, we're going to have to say goodbye.
She's one of the good Greens. She's one of the ones that I actually kind of like. I've met her. I've spoken to her in person. She actually gives a shit and feels like a human being. But like the Greens are the reason why housing development didn't get approved by Labour Party, because they voted with the Liberals against it. And same with energy infrastructure changes, same with NDIS related changes. Like, they just kept voting with the LNPs, and it's been a huge issue. Okay, the ALP is center-right party, and that's been pursuing 99% of the LNP's agenda. That's not true. They're not, because the ALP, first of all, has said no to pretty much all of the right's agenda here. They tax corporations much higher, like under Labour, under the last administration, not this current one. Coal companies were paying 10% more in taxes than they were under any previous administration. Like a full 10% more than any Liberal administration that came before it. On top of that, like, the reason that Labour won this election is because of the policies they put forward, which benefit the people. Hey, we'll give you money off of your electricity bill. Hey, we're going to subsidize adding solar panel batteries to your house. Hey, we're going to make sure that TAFE is free. Hey, we're going to make sure that GPs bulk bill again. Like, all of this stuff. That's what I'm talking about, though. The current administration, that's all that's relevant to discuss. Well, this administration is even more left than Albanese's first one. And the Albanese administration the first time was much further left than they were able to be. A lot of the things that they wanted to do, they weren't able to do, and had to do a lot of what the Greens and the Liberal Party wanted them to do. The Greens are the only reason that $2 billion is set aside for actual housing builds. Except the Greens blocked the bill that would have made housing actually get built. They, like, more than 100,000 houses would have gotten built if not for the Greens. No, I'm not buying into it. I was here. I covered it, Story Girl. I watched it. Like, we covered it on this channel. I think that you may be misled here. I disagree. Cite me any gaslighting. Like, show me that they didn't vote with the Liberals, because they did. I can, like, if you remind me exactly what the name of the thing that they voted on was, I can pull it up. They voted with the Liberals. Labour is basically left-leaning working class. Labour is basically slightly better than the Democrats. And the Liberals are Republicans, and the Greens are better than the American Greens by far, because the Greens in America are literally worthless, whereas the Greens here aren't worthless. They're much better, just not on a broad spectrum. There's Greens that I like and Greens that I don't, but Labour is definitely further to the left than most of the country. Also $10 billion for mental health, adding another, another 10 billion into helping with the reefs. Like, these are all new ALP policies that they put out. It's not the lesser of two evils. It's not. Jajex, Labour is not an evil. It's not the lesser of two evils. The Labour Party that currently won this election is better than any government that just won an election in the last year. Any world government that, like, any country that had an election in the last year and elected their leaders has shittier leaders than the Labour Party right now. They're one of, like, the better leaders in the world. They, like, are not working just for the corpos. Now, of course, there is still corruption, and they do definitely still work for the corpos, just not anywhere near as much as the Liberals do, not anywhere near as much as the United Australia Party would have. They're much, much, much better than you guys think. They didn't vote for the half in its first iteration, but the half was in its first iteration was going to end up resulting in $5 billion put into share market and might not have found its way back into builds for 5 years. Except that money now just is being held aside and isn't being put into builds anyway. But, like, you know what? I'm not going to argue with that on that one, because I believe you. No, what you said is true. I'm not going to argue with it because I can't remember exactly. I remember that bit of it, but I don't necessarily remember how the second iteration would have been better. And the fact that, like, they didn't vote in on the first iteration when it could have just passed and we could have had those houses built, I feel like would have been better. Like you can that's an actual semantic of which policy is better here, and I like that kind of argument because that's a true point. Like Story Girl, you are correct. Now, would it have been better if that went through immediately and those houses were built then, or would it be better now, like as it is with how the Greens voted for it's sitting in as you said, what was it called? Holding on. But like also, the Greens do not sit with my own ideals. The Greens heavily, let's say, oppose the banning of social media for minors in Australia. And I think that that's necessary. In fact, I wish that we went further and made it 18 instead of 16. And they have not opposed the disbursement of those funds. Okay, that's fine. That makes me feel a little bit better. Like I said, the Greens aren't evil. They're not bad. They're just not my first choice. I wouldn't put them above Labour. I would put Fusion above both the Liberals, the Greens, and Labour.
To a couple of our colleagues because the Liberal vote was down so low.
Adam Bandt was banking on a hung parliament to increase his party's influence. But in a game that's all about numbers, the Labor landslide and clear majority has hollowed out his heft in the House of Representatives.
I think that we need to ban smartphones for people under 25.
Partly hung his campaign on Peter Dutton's leadership, now his own may be called into question.
Adam has been an incredible leader for the Greens.
Those celebrations for the Teals.
I think we made the right choice. Good on you, McKellar. Clearance climate.
Fuck the Teals. Again, Teals are just rich Greens.
Independents overall cementing their positions across Sydney, from Wentworth to McKellar.
That's not what the ALP say about the Greens. I'm well aware that parties lie about other parties. I don't believe what a party says, Story Girl. You should know better. I absolutely read and look into these things, and for the most part, I am still right. The Greens did vote with the Liberal Party and blocked a lot of what Labour wanted to do under the guise of this doesn't go far enough or it's not good enough, so let's do nothing. And that's what pisses me off about the Greens. I dislike that a lot. Just because it could be better doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything. Because as you say, those funds have not been disbursed. That's fine. Those houses could have been built. The NDIS could have been better. What could have happened with energy infrastructure well before now? We had to settle with a rebate instead of, I don't know, just making better energy infrastructure. I voted for the Socialist Alliance for the Senate based. I would absolutely choose them over the Greens too. Y'all need better color names than just a color. Greens, teals, please put in Fusion. I'm turning this chat into a Fusion simp chat. There's a big difference between voting with the Liberal Party and voting against the same legislation the LNP has for different reasons, except the LNP didn't have the same legislation. They voted with the LNP against the ALP's legislation because the LNP didn't like the ALP's legislation. They were not the same. They were different. The ALP would have made it infinitely worse, especially with the NDIS stuff, especially with energy. I'm not going to argue with you on the housing aspect, but no, they did vote with the Liberal Party against the ALP legislation. For different, you said they have the same legislation as the LNP for different reasons. I disagree. The Liberals and Labour are not the same party. This is not the UK, where they are pretty much unidentifiable. It is much different. I heavily disagree with you on that. I didn't say that, reread. I am. There's a big difference between voting with the Liberal Party and voting against the same legislation as the LNP for different reasons. The context, sure, okay. You voted against the same legislation for different reasons, except they did still vote with the Liberal Party. They may not have voted with the Liberal Party based on we're voting with them because we like them. They voted for this, the same thing with different reasons, but they still voted with the Liberal Party against legislation that would have made Australians' lives better. Like, whether or not they voted with the Liberal Party, they still voted with the Liberal Party. Just came in, Dutton lost big, yes. Why are we fighting about this? I don't know, because people get really pissy when you talk about, like, the Greens and you dislike them. Same thing happens when you talk about Labour, and same thing happens when you talk about Liberals. This is why, what I mean by Australian politics is harder than American politics for me, because I can't, like, have a conversation with an Australian leftist that is functional and doesn't fall apart due to infighting anywhere near as easily as I can with Americans. It happens much, much more commonly here. You know which two parties have voted together for over 95% of legislation in the past 10 years? I am aware. It's the LNP and the ALP. Except, let's talk about this last ALP, because no, they didn't. You're doing what you told me not to do before, of comparing what's like the current government to that of the previous government. So why are you getting butthurt about the Greens? Because the Greens are pieces of shit. You're the one butthurt by me saying I don't like them at a federal level for voting with the Liberals. You're the one trying to tell me they didn't vote with the Liberals. They voted against the ALP on the same legislation that the Liberals voted for. Like, you're the one that's butthurt here. You're the one doing the infighting. I'm not sure you're realizing that. I'm saying I like some of the Greens. I don't like the party, and you're the one arguing with me while I'm still waiting to continue on with my stream, while I'm saying regularly over and over and over again, my preferred party is the Fusion Party, not the Labour Party. My preferred party is the piracy, science, climate change, anti-religion party. That's the Fusion Party. Do you get to vote here yet, Visora? No, not yet. I'm still waiting to get called in for my, citizenship ceremony. What's up, Onyxander? We won my electorate of Sturt for the first time since 1960. Hell yeah, we were just looking at that. How like, that was a huge deal. Adelaide is free of Liberals entirely now. And so is, Tasmania. It's been great. Greens are out of touch inner city idiots that live in the same suburbs as the Liberal idiots. I wouldn't go that far, because that's very broadly, but like some of them are, yeah.
In the eastern suburbs and Fowler further west, Monique Ryan has secured Kooyong and incumbent Helen Haynes retains Indi. Over in the west, Kate Cheney has held on to Curtin, while Andrew Wilkie returns. National turned independent Andrew G retained Calare. There are a number of seats still in doubt, including Bradfield, Bean and Goldstein.
God bless you.
Bob Catter easily returned. While the National...
Bob Catter is the one that was talking about gay rights and then immediately was talking about crocodiles in northern Queensland.
Will likely hold on to all its
Don't worry
seats.
about corporations, nothing will fundamentally change. When you keep telling yourself and everyone else shit like that, then of course not. I'm never in my chat ever again do I want to hear nothing will fundamentally change. Ever again. We are revolutionary optimists here. We're gonna change it. I don't give a fuck. The size of Australia is kind of scary for some reason. It's literally the same size as America. Just like slightly bigger maybe.
Lose one in the Senate. The result is still sinking in for the party's leader.
We should be proud about the way that we have run our campaign. The Nationals have run a flawless campaign.
Counting their losses and taking the wins. Pablo Vinales, ABC.
Jesus Christ, yeah. And Trump's gonna be important for Albanese post-election now. So.
The man who lives here was the uninvited guest in this Australian election. With Anthony Albanese re-elected, the role that Donald Trump may have played will be heavily examined. But what's already clear is that
Australia and the lower 48 are pretty much identical. Like, Americans and Australians are not all that far off. The only difference is that we give less of a fuck in general.
chaos created by this Trump White House has damaged some right-wing political parties, most notably in Canada and now possibly in Australia.
We do not seek our inspiration overseas.
I'm excited for like Albo's speech. I'm not going to spoil it because I haven't seen any of it, and I've heard it was very good.
Many of those who voted for Mr. Trump only months ago have already been hit by job losses, higher living costs through tariffs and superannuation losses.
Did Australian News send a guy to the White House lawn just for that setup? They probably had him filmed there. No worries, story girl. I wasn't like yelling at you. I just got kind of frustrated. But the point I was making was that like the argument is coming from your end, not mine. Like I don't even care all that much. My preferred party isn't even Labour, it's the Fusion Party.
Had the so-called Trump revolution delivered early dividends, those thinking of voting for Peter Dutton may have been emboldened. Instead, in a world riven with conflicts and a global economy on a roller coaster, Australians have chosen stability, a Prime Minister they know. So what now? Prime Minister Albanese needs to manage Australia's security relationship with the US.
Which means talking about Pine Gap. Again, the US is a threat to Australian security because China is a threat to Australian security and doesn't want to be, but America keeps pissing them off.
Which these days means managing the relationship with Donald Trump. What happens now with AUKUS? Will Australia ever see a US submarine?
Be discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir. What does that mean?
That's now a real question. What happens now with tariffs? Will Donald Trump show Australia any mercy? And what happens now with China? Will President Trump accept that Australia needs to maintain a good relationship with both the US
No, of course not. Fuck that. Let's just move away from the US and towards China, alright? Alright, give me like 2 seconds before we sit down for this one. We can listen to Penny Wong open in the meantime if you want. But I've heard that this speech was great. The only thing I know about it is that it starts with the strongest acknowledgement to country I've seen, and it's almost certainly directly related to that guy during Anzac Day who was shouting during their acknowledgement to country. Excellent. All right, I'll be back in like 2 seconds. In my head right now, all I can hear is democracy sausage. Democracy sausage. All right, let's get going.
Thank you, friends. Thank you all. Thank you for believing in Labor.
I think the Greens are worse than Labour, but yeah.
Believing in the power of
we
this
can agree to
great
disagree
nation.
on that. Yes, it is, Rondo.
The power in our 26 million people from more than 300 ancestries. And from the oldest continuing civilization on the planet. And I acknowledge the traditional owners. Friends, we love this country. We love
Much better than it was.
And representing it to the world is the honour of my life.
I was very scared.
Because of who we are and what we strive to be. A nation that stands on its own 2 feet, that invests in the aspirations of all of its people, and a nation of courage and of kindness.
Canada didn't convince me. Like, seeing that happen there gave me hope, but I was still really worried. This is what's now actually setting in for me is, okay, we made it. Cool. Awesome. We don't have, you know, Hitler here. Not in charge, at least.
I saw this purpose and these principles in our campaign across the country. Our hard-working candidates, the thousands of Labor volunteers in every state and territory, in every community, working for a better future. Friends, 3 years ago, the Australian people made a collective decision to turn the page and write a new future for ourselves.
Again, just so you all understand, like, the magnitude of this, this is the first incumbent government to win re-election in like 20 years in a political environment where incumbent governments are getting ousted left and right.
Tonight, together, we start the new chapter. And we will write this next chapter so all Australians are part of our nation.
I didn't say not to, just like be aware that your drunk abusive dad is going to beat you when he gets home. Like, there's the difference, not necessarily to not say it. Does that mean it's been hard for policies to stick for a long period of time? Not necessarily, because, like, again, on the corporate aspect of it, a lot of them do still work for the same people, which are the corpos, rather than you. The, like, Australian government could change quite a bit, and I think, again, here, we have even better odds of doing this from the bottom up thing. Is Australia supplying arms to Israel? Kind of, yes and no. Like, we tried not to, America got mad. She tried not to, America got mad. We tried to give guns to Ukraine, America got mad. At this point, it's like, it's unclear to me which says yes.
Story.
There's not like a solid answer, so that's a yes.
No matter who we are or where we come from.
We have supported Palestine officially, like openly now.
No matter age or gender, no matter the lottery of birth, Australia's opportunity is for us all.
It's like both siding it, like America.
And friends,
well, like old
that
America.
Australian story is embodied by our Australian Prime Minister. A man who shows what real strength is. A man of courage. A man of compassion.
On the down low, like Homo sapien.
With the conviction of who we are and what we can be. A leader with a conviction that builds Australia's future. Friends, some might want to mimic the worst of other countries. Albo always backs what's best about our country. Please welcome my dear friend.
Sundry Clown Car, but not quite to that extent. But yeah, the LNP were re-elected twice in the last 12 years, and the Rudd Gillard government. No, I mean like prime minister wise, not like the actual thing. They say it in one of these. ScoMo only had one term as well. Like the party got re-elected, but I'm pretty sure the prime minister didn't serve 2 consecutive terms. What's exceptional is the fact that they had a major swing towards them as an incumbent government. That is also exceptional. In fact, like the 4% swing is very exceptional. Yeah, sorry, I misworded that. They like the Liberals won, but the prime minister was not an incumbent prime minister for 20 years. So that's the big deal. On top of the fact that they are a major party in an incumbent government that had a swing towards them. I'm gonna do it again. I'm just gonna keep playing this every time now. Every time.
Critiquing America is now terrorism. But what if we critique the people that run America? Asking questions that may even insinuate the laws are wrong is now illegal. So what if I got a problem with living here? Having a problem with living here is illegal. Okay, so what if like innocent people getting killed and like my rights are being infringed on? All heroes will be shot. Well, can I critique the president?
Gonna keep
the
doing
president was picked by God. Okay, well, I'm gonna just stand up and start a revolution then. Well, you and anybody that see what you do or was a part of it will be shot. Y'all can't shoot everybody. We will shoot everybody.
I'm not even closing this one. I'm just gonna leave it here, paused, because I'm
Critiquing
sure
a-
it'll need to come up again. Also true, Jacques.
My fellow Australians, serving as your Prime Minister is the greatest honour of my life. And it is with a deep sense of humility and a profound sense of responsibility that the first thing that I do tonight is to say thank you to the people of Australia for the chance to continue to serve the best.
Australia doesn't have a nuclear program and push American position. Are you talking about the nuclear submarines like AUKUS? Because we want out of AUKUS. America doesn't even want to do AUKUS with us. I'd rather just do it with the French. Like, what happens with America is what concerns me here, because Dutton absolutely would have leaned towards let's be friendly with America. In fact, let's be the 52nd state. That's what like Dutton's answer would have been. Whereas I'm hoping Albanese is much more willing to say, nah, fuck you, we're gonna move closer to China. So,
Best nation on earth. And I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which
look how happy he is to say that. That, again, I think is a direct callback to the fucking dude at Anzac Day who couldn't keep his mouth shut during a goddamn welcome to country.
the traditional owners of the land on which and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging today and every day.
He saved Medicare for the next few years. Dutton was canceling that too. Honestly, I think that like if Albanese sticks to the policies that he laid out before the election, which he did last time, the promises that he made on election last time were promises that he like, whether or not he fulfilled them, he at the very least definitely tried to, and every one that he did fulfill, he did fulfill. He didn't ignore any of them. And so I feel like if they manage this well, Albanese could be like the FDR of Australia going forward. Like we could just have a leftward swing for a while, especially with what's happening all over the world, including in America. I think that might keep affecting us. Australia is firmly stuck with the US. Sadly, they will remain our largest trading partner, but there is no shot AUKUS ends. Most of the Australian population are supportive of it. No, they're not, Liddy Bruz. Secondly, Australia's largest trading partner is China, who wants us to drop US ties, and has a bit more influence right now than America does. And three, the existence of U.S. military bases on on Australian soil makes Australia a nuclear target from China, which most Australians are really mad about. And Australians also did not want Americans here in Pine Gap for decades, so it's not like they're going to want them there now. Another Whitlam, hopefully the CIA has to coup him out. Well, you know, honestly, I don't think the CIA has it in them anymore. They seem to have lost their game. If Trump really war with China, Australia, vassal of the U.S., or another betray Ukraine station, then yes, Australia follow. Okay, I'm sorry. I know what you're trying to say, but your English isn't good enough for me to put it together, and you're kind of wrong. But for me to actually point out where you're wrong, I need to be able to read what you're saying fully. Yeah. And with China halting shipments to the U.S. also is going to be even more lucrative. Yeah, Australia is on track to be a pretty powerful economic state now, at least with the current situation, especially if we could take this like opportunity to build manufacturing in Australia rather than just selling our natural resources. I meant to say that China is Australia's largest trading partner, but I guarantee that you're wrong about AUKUS. I live in Australia. No, they don't. More and more, especially. And AUKUS, like, America's not doing it. Part of AUKUS was that America was supposed to lend us submarines, which they're not doing. Like, AUKUS is a shit deal for us. It is bad in every way. It doesn't benefit Australia even remotely, even under like the best context, which has not played out. Trump didn't even know what AUKUS was when he was asked of it.
Today, the Australian people have voted for Australian values. For fairness, aspiration and opportunity for all. For the strength to show courage in adversity and kindness to those in need. And Australians have voted...
We're already going to go get dragged into a conflict with China over Taiwan in the next 2 months. But, like, no, I'm telling you right now, I'm well aware of what the polls said. I also know what they say now. Australia is more and more polarized against the US, including things like AUKUS. Like, they wouldn't even lend us a sub. I remember the last time, like, news about AUKUS came out. I didn't see a single Australian say anything positive about it on any of the media. Both online, mainstream, any of it. I cover Australia pretty regularly, and I've covered AUKUS for, like, over a year now.
For a future that holds true to these values. A future built on everything that brings us together as Australians and everything that sets our nation apart.
Normies who watch me do.
In this time of global uncertainty, Australians have chosen optimism and determination. Australians have chosen to face global challenges the Australian way, looking after each other while building for the future.
This is the kind of message that I love to hear, by the way. Like, hearing this compared to, I don't know, the doom and gloom of the last couple of months is such a difference.
And to serve these values, meet these challenges, seize these opportunities, and build that better and stronger future, Australians have chosen a majority Labor government. A majority Labor government promised.
Feels like a human being. Like that joke didn't come off as like forced or awkward like any of American politicians trying to make a joke would. He just feels like he has friends. Like Long Like Homo Sapien said that ages ago, and it's stuck in my mind. And I think that that's how we should be rating politicians from now on. Does this man look like they have friends outside of work? Having a soul definitely helps, yeah.
And delivered. A short time ago, I spoke with Peter Dutton.
Thank you, I'm Qatar.
Who has, of course, conceded defeat. And I thanked him. No. What we do in Australia...
Just brought out the teacher voice there. Hold on, what was that?
Peter Dutton, who has, of course, conceded defeat. And I thanked him. No. What we do in Australia is we treat people with respect.
Now that's liberal behaviour. But hey,
I thank Peter for his generous words at the end of what has been a very hard-fought campaign. And I want to take this opportunity to wish Peter and Kiralee and their family all the very best for their future. Now, at election time, parties and candidates ask people to make a choice. And inevitably, the campaign and the coverage is about our differences and our disagreements. That is the nature of our democracy, and it is the role of the media who serve it. But
except they don't.
Now that the Australian people have made their clear choice, let us all reflect on what we have in common. Because no matter who you voted for, no matter where you live, no matter
well,
how
Dutton
you
doesn't get a say in whether he's fine with it or not. Dutton gets to get invested in by the Australian taxpayer while he's waiting in the Centrelink line now.
Or who you love, whether you belong to a culture that has known and cared for this great continent for 65,000 years, or you have chosen our nation as your home and enriched our society with your contribution, we are all Australians.
Hey, I get to say it now. I'm Australian. The Prime Minister just gave me the pass. I can say I'm Australian now.
So let all of us work together to build our national unity on the enduring foundations of...
You know, Dutton owns a shopping centre? Like a proper... Like, he owns a mall.
Fairness, equality, and respect for one another. My fellow Australians, I know the world has thrown a lot at our country over the past 3 years. I know so many of you have worked hard in the face of significant challenges.
Oh, I definitely have the cunt pass. Like, are you kidding me? It's not even a slur here. It's a term of endearment. No one's calling... I mean, like, you can get called a cunt and it not be a positive thing, but in Australia...
Chaotic trip. The free fall booth.
Like, yeah. I'm very endearing to my worst chatters. I get it.
And I know there's still much more to do to help people under pressure. That is why it means so much that in these uncertain times, the people of Australia have placed their trust in Labor once again, including so many Australians who had voted Labor for the first time. I make this solemn pledge. We will not forget that. We will never take it for granted. Repaying your trust will drive our government each and every day of the next 3 years. The positive program we took...
This is a good victory speech. I'm enjoying this for once. Huh?
...was shaped by the Australian people's priorities. And our government will dedicate the next 3 years to making a positive difference to your lives and to your future, bringing the rewards for your hard work within reach, investing in our youngest Australians, looking after older Australians, and building an economy and a society that is every bit as strong and fair, as resilient and generous as Australians are themselves.
This shit does make me proud to be an Australian. Comparatively, especially from where I'm coming from.
From tomorrow, back at work. Maybe not everyone here. And that's probably for the best. We take up this task with new hope, new confidence, and new determination. Because together we turning the corner, and together we will make our way forward with no one helping.
Sad American noises. Oh my god, a politician telling jokes and they're not like Trump? What is this, yeah?
Back and no one left behind.
The crowd's already drunk, mate. Like, this is election night. You think that they weren't all trashed? That's why he made the joke of some of you probably shouldn't go to work tomorrow.
I was raised to be an optimist. My mum had a hard life and we struggled financially. But she taught me to always be positive and see the best in people. When it comes to Australia's future, all of us have so much reason to be optimistic.
I mean, that would all make me incredibly prouder, Story Girl, definitely. But right now, I will take the fact that we are not the Nazi country as a W, and I'll be proud of that. And then I'll be prouder when we get through all of that stuff as we go on. But they're not going to do it. You have to. I have to. Run for office. If you want to see that kind of change, do not expect any party to give it to you. None of them will. Not a single one of them. You have to get up from the bottom up with your friends. You have to knock on the doors. You have to join the government, and you have to make that change. Because none of these parties will ever give it to you. Not without the pressure behind them forcing them to. If you slump depressed through small victories, you won't make it. Yeah, you gotta take the W, man. Like, enjoy this, and then we can continue on the fight. But, like, yes, the indigenous, groups definitely need way, way, way more protections, rights here, a voice in fucking parliament. You know, we shouldn't have even bothered with a referendum to the voice. We should have just done it. I don't know why we bothered with a goddamn referendum. Just be like, all right, this is what's happening now. That's what a real government would have done, except, you know, that would require people that are not in relation to money and don't work for corpos, which is impossible unless you're doing it from the bottom up. None of the parties will ever create lasting positive change from the top down. It's the same with every other country. Lasting positive change will only ever come from the bottom up. The thing is, like, I don't think that makes sense, Story Girl. Because didn't the Labour Party put it up while they were also in power? That would just... That makes no sense for them to do if they thought that it would be defeated. Why even put it up? And again, I just would have done it rather than put it up to a referendum.
Because when we look at everything going on around the world today...
A referendum here isn't like everyone has to vote on the policy. I'm sure you could find a different way around that by not amending the Constitution and finding a way to add this in without having to do that, Lady Bruz, but I do get the point that you're trying to make there. Isn't a referendum inherently a bottom-up decision? Yes and no, because it's still being conducted from a top-down. A bottom-up change has to be like everybody in Australia gets up and demands change. People start joining politics and kicking out incumbent politicians left and right and taking their seats. That's what I mean. They put it up to a referendum because their business sponsors demanded it, knowing it wouldn't get up. Okay, that one makes a bit more sense.
The changes that will shape the future of the global economy. When we think about our people and their smarts and skills, truly, there's nowhere else you'd rather be than right here in Australia.
Currently, this is one of the best countries to live in the world. So, you know, referenda in Australia require a double majority of the vote and a majority of the states, so they're difficult to pass. Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't have even tried with a referendum. I just would have done that. The mining billionaires didn't want natives getting their land back. Well, the mining billionaires also didn't want to pay more taxes, which they are going to get stuck doing now. So fuck them, like every other billionaire. It's the natives' land. It's not anyone else's. In fact, just to prove it to you, that it still is their land. It's not like you can't fuck around in this country without finding out a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean. Because this based individual
sure is real because I'm teaching them. Their greatest power comes from just sitting on the ground and lighting a fire. You see, it's day 1344 and I'm still living here on the Adani Bravas Carmichael mine. I'm sitting on the northern section of the mining lease. Can you hear those trucks in the background? They're supposed to be here right now, but they can't because I won't let them. Because there's a fire going and I'm sitting here and there's no proof of purchase. You didn't conquer me because I'm still here. That's my greatest radicalization to the youth. Your power comes from sitting on your homelands and taking a...
That's bottom-up change. That's something that, like, you all can practice in, by the way. It's not just like, you don't have to be an Indigenous Australian to do that. You can just do that anywhere. Now, in America, it might be, like, you might actually get bulldozed over, but I feel like that might still slow them down a little bit, make it a little bit more difficult. If you're willing to get run over by a bulldozer, might want to consider it.
This is a time of profound opportunity for our nation. We have everything we need to seize this moment and make it our own. And we
no, yes, you can. Don't call me an ableist for saying everyone can do that. Go and occupy space? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's an excuse that you're making up. I'm also disabled, and I can go occupy a space. Now, does it hurt? Can I do it for long? No, but there's ways around that. You can grab some friends, you could take turns, but that's all adding into the complexity. It's not an ableist statement to say you can all just go do that. Go occupy a space. You can take a bunch of meth. Now, that's an ableist statement. Because not everyone can take a bunch of meth. I can. But that's because I have ADHD. Actually, in certain states, you can't do that. South Australia, for example, has essentially made protesting illegal. Well, I live in South Australia, and I've been to several protests over the last 6 months. So, like, it's still legal. And you can. Now, regardless of whether it's legal or not, you can do it. It's just there's going to be consequences that you have to face afterward. No. In the context of this, it's not TOS. It's... don't do anything illegal, but, like, the law is just a threat of violence imposed on you by the state. Of course, some people can't make it out their own door. I have a neighbor who's basically bedbound. They can't occupy shit. Okay. Now you're just being contrarian, because that does not apply to this case. First off, there is no one bedbound watching me right now, and if there was, they would have said so. Secondly, they can get put into a wheelchair if they want to, and you don't have that problem. Don't call me ableist for saying everyone can get up and go occupy space when, what, like 1 out of every, like, 10 people might have some difficulty. Yeah, and sorry, not having that. Neither am I. It's not ableist. It's stupid to think like that. That's wokeism. Stop word policing. Feel a little uncomfortable, story girl. This is discomfort that you need to feel. You're coddling yourself and everyone else around you. This is bad for you.
Let's do it together. All of us.
Except I have attended protests recently, and no one's getting, like, arrested or fined like that I've seen. I've not seen it on the news. I've not seen that happening. I'm sure there is some efforts to that, but South Australia has also made money in politics illegal. Like, wokeism, who's policing? Now I'm saying this is what you're doing. You're coddling yourself and everyone else by saying, well, you can't say everyone can go outside and engage in political, like, dissonance. Yes, they can. Whether or not it's difficult, whether or not it's reasonable, no, they can. Even a bedridden person can go outside and can. Because you can't. Yes, you can. All right, fuck this. Yeah, come back tomorrow.
For Australia to realise our full potential.
Like, genuinely, that kind of shit is child mentality. not everyone can wipe your own ass. Visora, you're ableist. Yeah, literally. Sure. Obviously, I'm not talking about that person then. But the rest of you, you're all perfectly able to go outside to a protest or to engage in action that risks your health and safety. Again, am I saying you should? No, I'm saying you should think about whether that's right for you, whether you're willing to sacrifice all of that, whether you are willing to contribute to the cause, but you have to make the decision of whether you're okay with those consequences and whether or not you're willing to do it. But to say that me saying that is ableism is child shit. It genuinely is. Obviously not the people who can physically impossibly not do it, but like bedridden people, okay, like what? You're stuck in a bed because every body in your bone is broken? Like every bone in your body's broken? You can go do it. If you're stuck in a bed because you need to be hooked up to like oxygen and all, like obviously I'm not talking about you, and obviously I'm not talking about the people who can't move or are in a coma. Like, sure, theoretically they can. Am I talking about them? No. I know the law. You're not wrong, Liddy Bros. Like like, legislation has passed, it's just not being enforced. I'm gonna say here in good faith, I'm also from South Australia, I study law here, I'm just trying to change things myself, but protest is extremely dangerous now in Adelaide. Like, I also am from South Australia, and like, I haven't seen it being enforced, but I do know of it, and you're not wrong. I do appreciate the link, it's just, right now, like, all protest basically is illegal everywhere. Even just like in the last year, every protest that was happening over Palestine was being met with threats of like, let's take people's visas away or deport them from the coalition. And like the Labour Party didn't really fight back on it all that much, but it's not necessarily to the point where you can't protest in Adelaide. There's still protests in Adelaide. I haven't seen them use this law yet. Once they start to use that, then things will change a little bit, and I would much rather just get it off the books really quickly, but like that might now be a possibility following this election as well. The Liberals were the majority of the people who wanted this kind of protest ban law, but yeah, we also don't have like freedom of speech in Australia anyway, so
all of us,
not
because
fight
for
like an American
Australia
does.
to realise our full potential, for our nation to be its very best, every Australian must have the opportunity to be their best. To serve our Australian values...
Yeah, that's because we're a holdover, shitty state of, like, only the colonizers couldn't live here. But it's changing. Again, money in politics is out in SA. And, like, SA used to be primarily where old people go to retire. This was, like, the nanny state of the nanny state. And less is that a problem now. I've been seeing, especially in Adelaide, more energy for this. I can't physically go to most protests, so I make and distribute agitprop and engage in activism in ways that I can do. That's my way to occupy space, and I don't think Viz was excluding that. Of course, no, I wasn't. Brain matter, yeah, there's tons of stuff you can do other than physically going and occupying the space. But I was saying that if, like, at most people in general can do that. You can go occupy a physical space too, brain matter. Now, like, is it feasible? Probably not, which is why you do other things to occupy said spaces. And that's good. Like the argument was that it was ableist for me to say that it was possible that you could, whether or not that would be easy or uncomfortable. And of course, I think that, like, engaging in protest without actually physically showing up is still possible, like, again, making and distributing agitprop, or maybe just, like, live streaming right now. This is a form of protest, because I can't be in America right now. But to say, like, well, I could be in America if I was okay with that, and, like, the things that came with it, it's the same idea. I could go to America, it just wouldn't be a fun time, it would be dangerous, and probably wouldn't end well. You could physically show up and occupy the space, but it might be physically dangerous and it might not end well. Like, that's all I said. One thing we did also recently, the referendum may have failed federally, but in SA, we actually created our own voice to parliament via legislation. Yes, we did. I did forget about that. Next time you pick up and shake a chatter for being too woke or otherwise, you should pull up their messages for all to see. Like, Story Girl, I'm usually fine with. This is what I mean by it's impossible to talk with the left in Australia because we devolve into infighting so much easier than the left in America does. Like, it was almost instant. I can sometimes, but not all the time, to say it's impossible 100% of the time is ignoring the... Yeah, like, I wasn't saying it's impossible 100% of the time or possible 100% of the time. Like, it's the idea of taking just any vague statement that I make and saying, no, this is actually 100% concrete, the exact wording that you meant, and nothing can, like... No, I know you're agreeing with me. I'm just adding into it. Like, that there's nothing... that needs to change to this, and that this is like the full encapsulation of your belief mentality. That kind of thinking just doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, at all. Why jump to that?
Must value every Australian, and Labor will govern for every Australian.
Of course it was a Green voter too.
Every Australian who wants a fair go at work. Fair wages. Fair wages for their work and the right to disconnect when they're done with work.
Hell yeah. Dutton would have gotten like the right to disconnect law and thrown it right out the window. Your like boss cannot call you when you're out of work in Australia. Legally. Like you have the right to disconnect. You can't get like, you know, they can call you just don't have to pick up, and they can't get mad at you for that. And also, wages have gone up under Albo every year that he was in power. It's just not like every category of wages, because wages here are based off of like awards, which is like basic industries specifics, and not every industry got wage increases. But he has been talking about more wage increases, especially for those industries that didn't get them the last time around, while also continuing wages to go up in general. A highly elected official actually saying fair wages. This is beautiful. It's true. And sent us back into the office. I love working from my home. That's also true. Yeah, I also wanted to end work from home. And then they dropped that because that was so unpopular.
Every Australian who deserves the security of a roof over their head or dreams of owning their own home. Every woman who wants her contribution to our economy and society to be valued equally.
Man's fucking FDR.
Parent who wants their child to get the best start in life with cheaper childcare and with fair funding for every student in every school. Everyone who counts on the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Damn right. Shard, we have 50,000 soldiers. We would need to get the emus, the cassowaries, and the drop bears on side with that one. And they're only in favor of a defense. Team up with Claudia? Hell yeah. But like, this is what I mean, right? Like, this is FDR shit. Albo, you do all of these things, and like, Australia will remember Albanese for 100 years, 1,000 years. It's like basic social democrat policies. Yeah, it's not all that like far-fetched, but it does sound so far based on today's standards.
There will be a government for every Australian who wants to train or retrain for new skills and a good job at public TAFE.
That's also based. TAFE, by the way, is trade school.
Every Australian who works hard for the life-changing opportunity of higher education and wants 20% cut for their student debt. Every Australian who knows that climate change is a challenge we must act together to meet for the future of our environment.
Did I just hear someone in the back of the room going, no!
We must act together to meet for the future of our environment. And knows the fact that renewable energy is an opportunity we must work together to seize for the future of our economy. We will be a government that supports reconciliation with First Nations people.
What's up, Overland?
Because we will be a stronger nation when we close the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. And friends, we will be a government that relies and helps every Australian who relies on Medicare.
I saw him pull it out, like doing the little sly little, let's get my prop out.
Because this card
He's like, I don't want everyone to see my number.
This card is not Labor red or Liberal blue, it is green and gold.
And that's the only thing you should need to get healthcare.
It is a declaration of our national values in our national colours. Medicare belongs to all Australians, and together we will make it stronger for all Australians.
Goddamn right. Make GPs bulk bill again.
Friends, I stand here tonight as the proud leader of an extraordinary team. I stood on the hallowed turf of the G this morning, doing live crosses making that point. I want to thank all of my colleagues, beginning with my friend, our incredible Deputy Prime Minister, Richard Marles.
They did, but they also did add $10 billion to the reef, and they're also taxing the coal mines, and they want less coal mines. They approved 4 last time around, but you are right, Lady Bruz. The Labour Party is also partially owned by corporations. It's just much less so than the Liberals. The Liberals would have made it so coal mining is the only power that we can have, like at all, in Australia. That was their whole plan. The entire let's build nuclear was let's pay for coal for 15 more years. At least kids were still bulk billed. I mean, to be fair, like he wants to make everyone be... everyone benefit from bulk billing. I get bulk billed, thankfully, because my GP is based. Can you adopt me in Brain Matter, please, Viz? I would if I could, Shardspork, but I'm not even a citizen yet, remember? I'm still a permanent resident.
No one could hope for a better deputy, and I thank him so much. My friend and our Senate leader, Penny Wong, and... her deputy, Don Farrell. Our economic team led by Jim Chalmers and Paddy Gallo.
Between the, clean energy infrastructure, building, solar panels, building wind turbines, building batteries, between also transitioning away from a coal-based energy infrastructure and transitioning towards an economy that isn't just selling our natural resources as speculative commodities like our water, for example, or selling our natural resources like coal, iron ore. I'd much rather us transition to building refineries where we make, let's say, steel and then ship that out. And now that the Liberal Party has crashed and burned, maybe we could finally stop talking about immigration and then open the doors a bit so we can have more immigration into Australia, considering we need it. and it'll be great. Labor has done a lot of solar rebates at the state level. Yeah, they're doing some at the federal level too. One of the things that he ran on was solar rebates. And Smile is genuine. He's a real person.
Person Jason Clare. And we've got a bit of a shared party tonight, and Berkey's here, the member for Watson.
Like, this is a victory speech that brings joy. Even to someone who's not necessarily 100% of
My amazing Labor caucus, which when you look at it across the benches, it's representative of the Australian people. I acknowledge all of our fantastic Labor candidates in every seat who put up their hand, gave up their time for our cause and their community. And if you excuse me for singling out one of them who ran for a third time in Dixon.
I think that's the one who took Dutton's seat. Yep, you are right. That's part of the reason why South Australian energy prices are so high, is that there's no coal used here. Battery pricing is out of control and drives the energy prices up. Does help the $4,000 battery subsidy that was promised by Albo, as well as the $150 off every Australian's electricity bill. So that's going to be nice.
So many of whom will be joining us as caucus members in Parliament. I want to thank the people of Grayndler, most of whom are here tonight.
I gotta pee. I'm gonna leave you on with the rest of this, because then when we get back, we're gonna have a look at how some of right-wing media might be covering this, and how very, very, very unhappy we are. Also, yes, the fact that we buy our free gas back from fucking Japan at a loss.
I've got to say something. It was very special on the way here. There was obviously, I don't know whether there was a drone above us or what have you. My security team said, you know, maybe they're just out on the street. People don't just hang out on New Canterbury Road. And from Lilyfield, Leichhardt, all the way here, I'm sorry, but I won't be moving back for a little while. The people of Grayndler did me an incredible honour in choosing me as their representatives 29 years and 10 elections ago. I've lived in this community in the inner west my whole life, and it's an incredible privilege to serve a community that you love, and I do love it.
I do want to make some tea, so give me like one more second. I can leave this on for the rest of you guys. I didn't know if you wanted to finish the speech or not. I'm just very happy, but I am gonna go make some tea. So I'll leave this on. I watched Andrew Bolt last night complaining about it. He had a sook about how Albo is a compulsive liar and the other borderline defamatory rubbish. His argument was that why the LNP was essentially Dutton is ugly and that people don't want an ugly PM. Really infantile shit, by the way. Honestly, that tracks so hard. But it is absolutely also kind of true. Dutton is ugly. I will leave it on.
To the Labor Party's heart and soul, our rank and file members and the mighty trade union movement in Australia. The Labor Party will always stand up for jobs and people's wages and conditions. Everywhere I have been through this campaign, your energy Your enthusiasm, your dedication to the cause has lifted me up. You inspire all of us in your service of working people, and we thank you. To our magnificent campaign director, National Secretary Paul Erickson. Paul has run an outstanding campaign. Paul and I did tell people May was the right time. And he managed to become a dad during the campaign. He was supported by an absolutely brilliant team. And all of those dedicated people own a part of this victory. And I thank you. To my personal staff, led by Tim Gartrell. The loyalty, the passion, the commitment that you show. You have a tough job that you perform with grace, with humour, with joy, and just a passion for changing the country for the better. Thank you for what you do. To my son Nathan. Who's grown into a fine young man who I am just so proud of.
Frank messed me about for a second there. My bad. The argument from Peter Credlin was also equally insane. Yeah. She basically said the LNP didn't go far right enough, so yeah, basically maximum levels of copium, really disingenuous, failing to mention the LNP had no policies aside from creeper fuel for a year and nuclear power plant. They literally had no policies, like none. No one gave a shit because they had nothing. They had literally nothing to go off of. They didn't even put out their, like, economic budget for the year, did they? Alright, let me get some of these links ready. And then we can watch some of the right-wing cope. It's great. Sounds like a certain US party. Yeah, concepts of a plan shit, really. Like, full on, genuinely, concepts of a plan shit. Okay. That should do it. I'll get up and get my tea when it is steeped. Let's start off with, how the Liberal Party's stance on China may have cost them several safe seats in the election.
I am in the seat of Menzies. Now, Menzies is a traditional blue ribbon seat. The MP had been Keith Wolahan of the Liberal Party, but after last night's victory of the Labour Party, he has now lost that, and it's now gone to Gabriel.
The Anti-Boycott Act was pulled from House vote today. So, cool. That's not passing. Lovely.
Ung, who's had a 2.45% swing towards him. Now, Gabriel Ung is of a Chinese-Australian descent, and Menzies is said to be one of the most multicultural electorates in Australia. In fact, something like 1 out of 4 Australians are said to be Chinese Australians. Now, Chinese Australians, of course, just as concerned about housing, about tax reform, about their businesses here. But I want to bring in now Jason Fang, who is the ABC's reporter for the Asia Pacific Network, who has a real local touch here in Box Hill, the seat of Menzies. Good morning to you, Jason. Thanks for bringing out the birds here, too. Listen, so this swing against the Liberal Party, this has been a blue ribbon seat for the longest time, since Robert Menzies inside. Let's talk about why this happened. What are you hearing on the ground?
Actually, the things turned very different directions in the last 48 hours.
Is it fall in Australia right now? Yes, it is. It's actually the beginning of autumn.
Because there was an interview on Channel 7's
program that Jane Hu, from it's a Liberal senator, made mention of China spy claim without any substantiation that turned the tides for the Chinese community. Because we have a version of that video, into the Chinese social media like WeChat or the Red Note, people hotly discussing the issues. And some people, yesterday I went to some voting booth, people with a Chinese background mentioned to me time and time again about that video.
Right. So the implication here is that Liberal Party Jane Humes had implied that there were Chinese spies within the Australian Chinese community, and that is something that the Chinese community, particularly here in Box Hill and Menzies, has really taken offence to, and that's why they decided to vote Labor?
That's correct. I think people, one of the small business person I interviewed yesterday, he said that draws back the memories of what happened in 2022, just prior to the election.
Yeah, I'm sure that would draw back some of the COVID trauma of everyone thinks it's the China virus.
Comments on China, on Chinese Australians. So that's why he decided to vote for Labor instead of Liberal. And there is another person who told me that, we've been Chinese for a long time, been Australian Chinese and loyal to us.
We've been Chinese for a long time. That's just an interesting way to put it. Maybe racism is bad, yeah.
Australia all the time. Why every time there's election, we've been questioned for our loyalty. They feel they've been singled out from the community, wider community.
We've had this discussion before, Jason, about how is it there will be some Australians who will be asking, as you say, or querying the loyalty of Chinese Australians. How can you be Chinese, still have cultural ties to China, because you have family there?
Does it even work in American politics? Seems like the only way the Republicans win is either through cheating or making it so that other people can't vote.
Business there, and yet be Australian. How does the Chinese community take to that?
I think the Chinese community believe that they are Australian first. They understand the value, understand the democratic process. Even some people have never voted in China. They try to familiarize themselves with the Australian system. Yesterday, I was talking to a father and son. The son was voting.
It does definitely work in the UK, though. Yep. In fact, Reform won their by-election, surprising nobody. And in fact, yes, it was a big factor in the Brexit vote. It's okay, the UK is a dead country. They can keep fucking up life for the people that live there if they want to. That's their decision. Let me grab my tea and then we'll continue. The UK is wasteland light rather. I can tell wasteland might end up being just like what we call America from now on.
This is a seismic remaking of Australian politics. Labor is on track for its biggest ever majority in the House. Don't be confused by this blue in the regions. When we drill into the cities, there's not much left of the Liberal Party. We still have 14 seats to call and plenty of counting to happen, but tonight we have Labor on 89 seats, a 14-seat majority, and it'll...
Again, the last, before this election... Labor had 55. So that's how bad they lost. Here was the count last time around with 77 total on the Labor side. So yeah, the 58 was the Liberals, which is now at 37. 87 to 37 is just brutal. Yeah. It's basically a big fuck you. Good to see the rejection of Trumpism in the rest of the world. I'm hoping that continues.
likely get bigger. The coalition decimated, stuck on 37, a historic low. And look at this huge crossbench. Expect even more Teals in this parliament, soaking up the centre ground where the Liberals in particular have seemingly given up. In Queensland, home to both Liberal and Nationals leaders, the LNP has gone backwards from 21 seats to 15.
Just imagining this, but in the American context, brings me such joy. Look, Queensland is still ontologically evil, but that's kind of the only place that libs remain. And not all of Queensland, obviously, but a large portion of it.
Labor picking up at least 8 seats, including off the Greens, who've had a shocker. In New South Wales, the Liberals down to just 6 seats, losing ground to Labor and the Teals. In Victoria, the coalition wiped out in Melbourne. All 6 seats we've called for the Conservatives are in the regions so far. For both New South Wales and Victoria, there could be more Nationals than Liberals in Parliament. In South Australia, the
There could be more Nationals than Liberals in Parliament. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. The fact that Dutton lost his own seat is the proverbial cherry on top. I'm so glad to see him gone. I hated that piece of shit ever since he made that comment about Pacific Islanders drowning due to rising sea levels. Absolutely disgraceful human being. I mean, like, we watched voters in his district talk about how much they hated him. So, like, yeah. But that was also historic. It was the first time the opposition leader not only lost an election, but also their own seat.
Are down to just 2, Sturt flipping to Labor. And in WA, the Liberal bloodbath from 3...
Wait, sorry, I want to...
than Liberals in Parliament. In South Australia, the Libs are down to just 2,
I thought there was none.
Flipping to Labor.
Oh, never mind. There's none in the city, not all of South Australia. It's just the 2, like, ruralist regions still have Liberals.
And in WA, the Liberal bloodbath from 3 years ago has been repeated. Labor sweeping the nation.
It's the bloodbath from 3 years ago has been repeated. I like that. Oh God. All right, here's some of the liches.
Speaking of women and going to Kooyong, it looks like in pre-poll samples out of Kooyong in Melbourne and Kew, there's a 20% lead of the Libs over Monique Ryan in pre-poll samples there at the moment. So,
do we know how much is counted out of...
Oh, these are all samples, mate, that are coming out. So that, like, these things could change very rapidly. But you know.
Can I just say something on that, Kieran? I mean, as a result of the redistribution, 1/3 of Kooyong has changed. And that 30% that's come in has come from the bluest of blue areas. Toorak example. Yeah. This is now undoubtedly a Liberal seat. If the Libs don't take that back tonight, you know, that'll be a very bad result.
That point, though, Kooyong, some of the bluest of bluest areas, the most difficult.
Look, like these people just look evil. Look at her; she just looks evil.
Liberal Party now, so I would be careful with just assuming.
Well, what's that about?
Like imagining her smiling is scary. I don't want to. And to your point, long leg Homo sapien, I feel like since we got a twofer over here, I feel like we could have a look at I mean, like, this is partially why Polivair's out in Canada, too. It's the same reason. It's because they had nothing to work with. They literally had nothing.
The leader of the opposition has been masquerading across the country as a working-class hero, but it's fascinating when you actually listen to what he thinks people do for a living. In a couple of recent speeches, he said he thinks electricians capture electricity from the sky and that welders weld with their bare hands. What's he going to tell me next? The fishermen in my community dive beneath the ocean and catch them with their bare teeth? Mr. Speaker, I can forgive the opposition leader for being a career politician who's been on the public dime for a couple of decades, but if he wants to represent the interests of the working class, he should talk to a person who has a real job.
Fucking Canada, yeah. That was Canada. She looks like a Moms for Liberty mom. Yeah. She gives Moms for Liberty, 100%.
Well,
yeah, just cooked him, utterly cooked him. I can weld with my laser hands.
Had to happen. Obviously, they're all women.
Well, because when you've got a bit more money in your pocket, you maybe not focused on things like cost of living. You've got an ability to look at other.
What type of bourgeois shit is this?
If the Libs don't take that back tonight, you know,
Hang on,
that'll be a very bad result.
Just on that point, though, Kooyong, some of the bluest of bluest areas, the most difficult for the Liberal Party now. So I would be careful with just assuming.
Well, what's that about?
Well,
how's that been allowed to happen?
Obviously, they're all women.
Well, because when you've got a bit more money in your pocket...
that tracks for Sky News, yeah?
You're maybe not focused on things like cost of living. You've got an ability to look at other issues. Well, and if the election's about cost of living, you tell me how you guys keep losing poor old seats where people are struggling.
I think the really interesting thing
Why are you
will
going to
be
get your
tonight whether the strategy that Peter Dutton pursued, and I know you encouraged him to pursue...
That's Trumpism.
...Peter, of ditching the teal seats for the outer suburbs, whether it pays off.
I've never don't verbal me, Murray.
What is that about?
I have never advocated ditching the teal seats.
You've certainly advocated for going after the outer suburbs.
I've always advocated, coming from a poor, backward part of regional Victoria, that those places cannot and should not be forgotten by the Liberal Party.
Well,
yep,
the strategy will be very interesting.
Mate, your mouth is writing checks your brain can't cash.
Peter, your response...
Like, they made woke welcome to country ceremonies a top political issue. Yeah. I mean, they're evil. Evil, like I said, ontologically evil.
So my point on Kooyong was a credible one, and I respect that. But I'll make the point, if you're not going to get Kooyong, given
that lady came out of the womb a cunt.
Back from the tills, what are you going to get back from the tills?
I'm not conceding Kooyong at about, what, 10.6?
Yeah, no, okay.
No.
Sure.
I'm just making a point. Just because an area is demographically very well heeled doesn't mean it's naturally Liberal anymore.
And the other thing
Victoria is a very different state, I think, tonight. I don't think we should see anything really through the prism of Victoria.
But
and the other thing that I would say about
30% of the seat has come in from Toorak and other places.
Yes.
The other thing that I would say about the Teals, they are not who they say they are.
I mean, really, everyone on this panel is a cunt, but, you know, and not in the
Peter calls them
nice
the
way.
Gucci Greens. Most
what?
They are not who they say they are. Peter calls them the Gucci Greens. Most of the Teals MPs are left-wing activists. Monique Ryan, a case in point. She's a former member of the Labor Party. She went to the last election promising a 60% reduction in emissions. And one of the things that so many Australians have seen from the Teals, they have big promises and very little delivery. There are a couple of exceptions, but most of them are left-wing activists.
Like radiating heat, holy shit, yeah. Continue shutting down the lefties. Like, the idea of calling Teals leftist activists alone is quite funny to me, but, you know.
What happens in those Liberal seats is that they get all of the Green supporters, they all dress up in their Teals T-shirts. They are not...
I guess the question is, why do they look like they might even increase...
That part she's right on. The Teals are just, like, richer Greens, but...
The representation. I mean, you look at Bradfield, you look at Bean, perhaps you even look at Warren. I'm not sure they're going backwards this time.
Because I think they've
only... Bowles from the Australian Conservation Foundation, you know, so she's definitely in that Green category, but she's on the verge of winning that seat.
Well, I think one of the things...
Well, if you're transitioning to Australian, the first thing you should know is when someone says Aussie, 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 the traditional reply would be oi, oi, oi. So that's step one.
And I look at Goldstein, I look at Kooyong, particularly in Victoria. A lot of voters have now had a very close look at those members of Parliament, and they are not who they say they are.
Do you believe you'll be winning
and
those?
all of these women are washed-up tradcats. Sorry,
no,
I
know.
that.
I'm not
okay,
making any prediction at this early stage. Certainly the early indications in Kooyong are positive. We've fought very, very hard. Tim Wilson has fought a really, really strong ground game in Goldstein, but he's got a big mountain to climb. But all I'm saying is that these Teals are the Gucci Greens, as Peter says.
Thank you.
To an extent, some of them are. Here we go. This one's great.
Andrew Bolt. Andrew, I want to ask you this question as we look at this number tonight. How do you go with a political party that had such an emphatic win in its position and its opposition to The Voice to a rout of the sort we're seeing tonight?
It's astonishing when you think that, in 4 months it managed to go from what was the primary vote, about 38%, some say even higher at one stage, to what is it now, 30%? I mean, that's disastrous. And I suspect that a lot of that, it just finally collapsed the last 2 weeks, I think probably went really badly very fast. We're talking a lot about Peter Dutton, and personally I like Peter Dutton, don't know him that well, I've only met him a few times, but you know, nice guy, all that. But it's not who you are face to face, it's what you present. And people thought he was scary. I think
such cases,
Tanya Plibersek probably did it deliberately, likening him to Voldemort. His looks were unfortunate.
30% when it said 23 on screen. That's just base Sky News shit. I gotta dose up my my sick cunt, Rogan.
That stuck. people, oh, scary guy. And when he then tried, it's a bit like Bill Shorten trying to be I'm not the union tough guy, I'm going to talk really nicely and kindly and sweetly. People didn't buy it. It wasn't really him. Made worse by the fact that he couldn't talk about defence for weeks, which would have been a natural fit.
Yeah.
But we're talking all about the failures of the Liberals. We've got to look on the other hand. You had Anthony Albanese. Sure, he lied his way.
Yes, they really think that he lost because he's ugly.
To a win. I got that. You know, his policies will be rubbish. I think the Liberal Party will have, the Labor Party is going to have a real big challenge in front of it.
I'm
restoring the economy to some health.
Excuse me, where's the economy now compared to where it was under the last Liberal Prime Minister, Scott Morrison? Because I feel like they've already restored the economy to good health. It's the Liberal Party that keeps fucking it, but you know.
But all that. But in these troubled times, Anthony Albanese had what Peter Dutton did not, and that is an ease with people. You saw it on the election campaign, all through it. He wasn't fazed. He's good for a laugh, good for a beer. You know, he's even contacted me. Would you believe? I'm one of his hardest critics. I would get texts and calls from him. I mean, seriously. This is a nice...
Yeah, that's called giving a shit and trying to reach out to everywhere you can to spread your message. You're a politician. It's kind of your job to do that.
Guy to many people, and in these times, that's what they wanted as opposed to scary guy. I know that's a superficial reading, but I tell you what, it counts for a lot. You got to have a guy or a woman that looks like a leader and that is reassuring in these times. And I have no idea.
This is such an infantile analysis. I can't believe what passes for serious political commentary on Sky News. Well, I mean, it's still better than what passes for serious political commentary on Fox News for now. But not all that far off. I mean, it's far enough off. At least you don't have Jesse Waters on Sky News. But yes, no, he's absolutely like throwing a tantrum right now. I'm mad the Labor Party won, but they're so bad. Why are they bad? They're just so bad. They have no policy. Like that's it. It's just whining. It's not fair. They're not stuck in their bubble. They know they're lying, Zhajex.
Who the Liberals will turn to for that.
Yeah, Andrew, it's interesting you make that point because there is a comparison to make here, and just as you give us your final thoughts on what you can reflect on this if you like, or make some other thoughts in relation to this result. But when you said that, it reminds me of John Howard, where he would engage with everyone, critics, those that loved him, loathed him. He would engage with everyone in the media. I think you can say a similar thing about this Prime Minister, Andrew.
I mean, that makes sense.
Well, I think you can. I mean, I don't know what it's like in private, but again, it doesn't really matter.
Well, you would have if you answered the fucking phone. He called you, mate.
I mean, I met him a number of times. Obviously, he came on my show years back when he was happy to show that Bill Shorten couldn't tell him what to do and what programs he went on. So he was always like that. But he is...
Jesus Christ. Like, it's sad. By the way, 3 minutes ago, ACT voters show once again there's no such thing as a safe seat in a federal election. 3 minutes ago. And yeah, it's not fair.
An orange army on the cusp of a huge upset.
Look at what we have done.
Wait, orange. I'm not sure I like that.
Let's go.
Jessie Price's supporters wasted no time celebrating her performance. Expectations exceeded, with the final result hanging in the balance, today attracting plenty of public attention.
Thank you. Thank you.
Something there'll be more of in the days ahead.
I think I do feel very cautiously optimistic. We'll see what happens. I don't want to be premature about anything, but I do know from being out and about and being there is such a mood for change.
Voters giving a range of accounts for her breakthrough.
Perhaps there's been a defection from the Liberals, but from people who don't want to vote Labor, so they've gone to the Independents.
Both Labor and the Liberals have been losing their connection with the people.
I saw a lot more advertisements from Jessie Price, and she was
even here, we don't have this shared reality because no, Labor gained 4% of a sweep. That's not true, but people think that it's true because they spend time watching mainstream media, which tells them that it's true.
Got our polling booth, remember that?
For Labor, the enthusiasm at an historic landslide was tempered by the precarious situation facing Bean MP David Smith. Still, there was time for a few pointed remarks.
We've ensured that Peter Dutton gets to work from home on Monday. The Australian people have rejected the Liberal Party's public service cuts.
Both Andrew Leigh and Canberra MP Alicia Payne were comfortably returned, as was Junior Minister Christy McBain in Eden Monero and former Nationals leader Michael McCormack in Riverina. But the most emphatic result belonged to Senator David Pocock. His vote doubled, a feat he puts down to a vision not widely shared by other parties' campaigns.
A lot of it was...
He looked so nervous to be spitting fire. You're not wrong.
Pretty short term, what can we give people to try and get re-elected rather than what's our long-term future?
It's left Labor
I can answer that question. No, they won't learn.
Short of a quota for an ACT Senate seat for the first time ever. Katie Gallagher expected to get over the line on preferences. Meanwhile, Canberra's long-suffering Liberals were left disappointed once again.
There's lots of Liberals who were embarrassed by the position that Dutton took with regard to the ACT and simply didn't want to be seen to be supportive.
The ACT Canberra is like DC, by the way. It's in New South Wales, but it is its own thing. It's just a territory, and it's the capital territory.
Of that approach.
An approach which has kept the party in the political wilderness. There are few words other than disastrous to describe this Liberal result, capped off by a Senate vote of just 15% and fewer than 1 in 4 votes in the party's strongest House seat. That's what opened the door for Jesse Price, even as David Smith's primary vote held up. Labor isn't giving up in Bean, pointing to the outstanding postal votes, which do tend to be weaker for independents. Whatever the
That's true, by the way. 8 million people voted early in this election by mail, or by just like voting early in person. But like that's not an insignificant number. Having a capital territory is wild. I mean, so do you. It is just DC. Speaking of wild, what the fuck is happening in America? This is from ABC News half an hour ago. Gunfire erupts at a family barbecue in Texas.
To that deadly shooting.
The right wing got spanked, like hard.
At a family barbecue in Houston, police say the gunfire erupted after an uninvited guest was asked to leave. One person was killed and more than a dozen others injured during a shootout. ABC's Perry Russum has those details.
Tonight, shocking video from inside a deadly shooting at a house party in Houston.
This sounds like Texas.
Calls for help coming in just before 1 in the morning.
We still have multiple patients that haven't received treatment, and still patients that are
like this shit
still
is
home, they've been shot. So they're all.
That's Texas for you. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. On some other good news. Remember Germany? And remember how they had an election recently? You know, the AfD, the Nazi party in Germany? Well, it turns out that they are now declared as an extremist organization. Germany's Domestic Intelligence Agency classifies AfD as an extremist organization and one that is anti-democratic, which is funny considering they are one of the largest parties in German parliament right now, so...
Germany's Domestic Intelligence Agency has classified the far-right Alternative for Germany as an extremist organisation and threat to democracy. The AfD finished second in February's national election on almost 21% of the vote, making it the main opposition in Parliament. Recent polls
I did, and then that anti-boycott bill also just got withdrawn, Captain Buggy.
suggest it has gained support since then, with several showing it as the joint strongest or strongest party in Germany.
Yeah, they are, but they're also now declared as an extremist organization and anti-democracy, which is going to make it very difficult for them to be in an election next time. What they're going to have to do is they're going to probably try and just form a new party and migrate over to it, which will harm their like voter base, because then they now have to explain to all of these people that they are the same party. But then if they do that too openly and too explicitly, then that new party will also just get declared as an extremist organization.
The move by the Domestic Intelligence Agency allows closer surveillance of the AFD's activities. Our chief political correspondent Nina Haase told me more about this new classification of the AFD.
The AFD had previously held...
Only to the degree that legally they're required to, long like Homo sapien. That's about it.
Suspected extremist status by Germany's main intelligence agency, and the party challenged that description, that designation in court, but was not successful there, so that held. But now the agency says that they've got concrete evidence. They've put forward a report that is that consists of 1,100 pages, where they laid out how the AFD, in their words, pursues efforts that threaten Germany's democratic order. Let's keep in mind, the AFD was founded as a Eurosceptic party in 2013, but has quickly moved further to the right over the years and adopted a very strong anti-immigrant stance. And the agency says, and I quote, that the party's prevailing understanding of the people based on ethnicity and descent is incompatible with the free democratic basic order. So they've looked at...
scathing. If only the American CIA could do that. Well, if only the American CIA wasn't on board with all of that. Christ. If only we could label the Republican Party as anti-democracy. I mean, I already have. It's pretty clear that they are.
Statements and positions by the party and leading AFD representatives, and say that a lot of them violate the principle of the inviolability of human dignity, and that is something that is enshrined in the German constitution, i.e. they do now say that the party is unconstitutional.
Now that's a big deal. If the party is unconstitutional, yet they are the second largest party in government, that's insane. They're an unconstitutional party. I kind of want to see this report now. Honestly, yeah. Pull it up.
And we know that the German parliament is made up of so many AFD members. What's this going to mean?
Well, they've got the biggest share of members in the opposition ranks right now after this year's federal elections. They scored a very, very good result overall nationwide.
Why does his face look like a brick? That's just the German. I mean, like, just legally cannot be allowed to exist if that's the case? Kinda, yeah, right?
But if you look at the east of the country, there they almost scored...
Cue J.D. Vance starting to yell, anti-democracy, free speech!
Half of the vote in many, many constituencies. And so, of course, this is a tremendous challenge now for German democracy. And all other parties have ruled out working together with the AFD, specifically because many politicians have warned of these right-wing extremist tendencies within the party, and that is why the AFD...
JD, shut up, you killed the Pope.
...is not in government on federal or state level. And of course that is something where many people have said, how do you deal with a situation like that when a party is clearly the big tent party in some parts of the country, and now an agency says that this is...
It's always very funny that the ultra-nationalist Nazi parties are always the big tent party.
...an unconstitutional party.
Couldn't this move make the party even more popular?
I think this move now triggers two tendencies. One, it will definitely feed into the narrative of the far-right AFD that has said over the past months and years that all other parties feel threatened, which is why they're undergoing these processes of trying to potentially even
maybe because you're a threat, but, you know, that's just me.
And the party, so they do play that victim card, and that is tremendously successful and popular with their voters, especially in the east of the country. But it will also trigger that other tendency that people who have long called for a ban of this party, specifically because of Germany's experience with right-wing parties at the helm of this country, they have called for a ban, and they do now feel strengthened, but that is something that will have to be looked at.
Like, it doesn't matter if the party uses this as fuel for themselves. The nation has to defend itself against people who overtly want to destroy the entire system and install fascism. When the report literally says these people are anti-democracy and are extremists, and is unconstitutional, then yeah. The thing is that this has been threatened and tried before, the other right-wing parties like the NPD. But Oberlin, isn't it required by law now that it's found as the party is unconstitutional? No, you're fine. It hasn't been said 100 times yet. It has definitely been tried, but like they declared it as unconstitutional now, and I think that might make a difference. I really don't know what to think about this move from the CDU. There's potential for this to backfire. Well, I mean, yeah, but like that's only if the CDU doesn't just follow through. If you're gonna make a threat, follow through with it. Ban them. Arrest the ones that try and work around it, and then tell America to shut the fuck up when we whinge about it. They need to treat them like France is treating Le Pen. I mean, like, they're not even going as hard on Le Pen as they should have. They need to treat them like we treated the Liberals in Australia. Remove them from relevancy, and also maybe throw them in prison. Add the French bit to it. I do support the French.
Extremely carefully by those politicians, and you do need a democratic institution here to come forward with this demand, with this.
And that's the issue, is that it requires an institution to do, whereas the left, or rather the liberals, are bad at using institutions for their own power, and the right is really good at ignoring institutions. And that our establishment parties also pondered a 5% minimum for 25 to dig themselves in, which isn't great. SCRU and the AFD, though, just to be clear, like, I don't know. Realistically, these people should just get thrown in prison. Like, that's the only way around it. That's the best way around it. We need to stop letting fascists waste our time. Stop letting the stupidity and the brain rot into our lives. You can just say no. Like, you know what? No brain rot for me today, thank you. I've had enough of that. If people's party platform is, I want to install dictatorship, they literally cannot run on that. Democracy doesn't mean everything is on the table. You can't just vote for a monarchy in a democracy. Yeah, but the AFD hasn't violated the law per se. They're saying that they're unconstitutional. National Front literally broke the law. There's tangible legal difference between unconstitutionality and breaking the law. But no, there isn't, because unconstitutionality is breaking the law. It's just like a different form of breaking the law. I guess, like, there's not been physical action, but there has been. The AFD's leadership, let's say, has been arrested for Nazi paraphernalia, for example, several times. There is, no, there's a difference. Legally, I'm sure there is one, but I'm sure there can be made an argument for the opposite as well, legally. Like, I'm saying that if you, oh, fuck, let's see. Like, if you want to just do that, you can do that. You don't need to worry about, I don't know, the electoral aspect of it. You can just say, no, you know what? Fuck you. You're not allowed to run anymore. And no one can do anything to stop you. It turns out that the only thing that keeps institutions running is people allowing them to. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Institutions are not inherently bad. But if the other side can just ignore them whenever the fuck they feel like and do whatever they like, then sometimes those institutions need to be used against those people. Not much, actually. Shard. Although, little discourse on a subject that I am going to open here. We all know that we're pretty stupid as a species now, right? Like, we have gotten dumber over time as a species, and I think part of that has to do with how we socialize, obviously. But how we socialize also has to do with how we speak. And we used to just sound smarter. Even if we weren't necessarily smarter, we did used to sound smarter. Don't you think that, like, life might be a little bit more fun if we still spoke like this?
No, my situationship might come over.
Stop calling it a situationship. It's a courtship. You're courting each other.
You make too many presumptions, good sir. 'Tis a matter of the flesh, nothing more.
Your perjury fails to dissuade me from Sir Malik's exhortation.
Far be it from either of you to claim privy to maiden minds. I quite prefer an arrangement like Kate's.
Madam, you lie or jest or both.
No.
All damsels desire eternal affection. Do you deny it? I dare say you hold the foolhardy notion that he may christen you wife one day.
Just like a man to simplify complexities of the heart into petty misunderstandings.
Complexity of the heart, yet a falsehood of the tongue. You proclaimed it a matter of the flesh, not the heart.
It is you.
This is how I sound to normal people when talking about history or politics. Well, I mean, yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, this sounds better, and we used to be smarter. And part of that is the words that we use. Now, to be clear,
Your kind you usher in this mess. Your indifference, your dishonesty.
Your kind has the habit of choosing
Everyone at
monsters
this table
over worthy
is wrong.
masters.
You believe yourself to be some noble vision of a man, but you're all of one mind.
I would love you! As the farmer does its harvest, as a sweet babe suckles its mother's teat.
Oh my god.
But you're not fucking with me!
but you're not fucking with me. At the end, too, throws me off. I love these people. Like, I want to bring that back. It's... To me, it feels like it'd be more fun. Just generally talking. Delivery needs some small breaks for pacing, 7 out of 10. Well, I mean, you know, maybe these people might have a bit more practice if we just talked like that, normally, generally, from time to time. It's just more fun. There's a whimsy to it, you know? The language has soul, and we've chipped away at that until all that's been, like, all that remains from this is 70 words in our vocabulary, give or take, like, 30. Some people can think of 100 words, some people can think about 70. It's pretty fucked. And you know that I think that it's the phone, for the most part. That and social media having such a large impact on how we engage with others, how we socialize, what we think. Articulates immaculate verbiage. Exactly. So that one may say, LOL true. Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad we all agree that we should try. And I don't know, have some more fun in life. Including just fucking around with our friends, just chatting like that. No, I was growing up before the internet. People were stupid as fuck then too. No, I agree. We were always pretty dumb, but we sounded smarter. And I at least want that back. Whether or not we can actually get smarter, that's for debate. But I would like to sound it, at the very least. Anyone chilling in YouTube chat on this fine day? I mean, there's 9 people watching on YouTube now. So, surely. But I think they just chat on Twitch now. I often wondered how the kids in college couldn't read were there, and this was like 20 years ago. So much worse now. Efforts need to be made. Small steps. We shut up more equals my theory. Yeah, no, I don't think that works. Let's enjoy life more. I think that'll work. I don't know. I'm going to take a cue from Anthony Albanese, and I feel like making fun of the content creator at the pub that you're getting, like, your free election media from, that's joyful, you know? Like, hey, hold on, wait, you didn't take a sip, you didn't do the rules, they do it again, hey, wait, one more, and I'm gonna take you off this job. Like, you're on someone's podcast, and you're like, you fuck up your own rule again, you're losing this podcast, the prime minister. Like, that makes people laugh. It has a soul. I want you to take that energy and apply it to your life. No one even leaves their houses and talks these days, let alone their phone. Yeah, I agree. Go outside, go for a walk, touch some grass. And also, I think we could practice engaging in a way, even without, like, getting rid of our phones, that is more conducive to less brain rot. Like, if you have a laptop or a computer in your house, maybe specific tasks that you often do on your phone, you could make it so you have to do those tasks on a physical computer. It's a lot harder to waste time when you're using a computer. Like, sure, there's a lot of things you can do, right? There's games you can play, you can open up a YouTube video, all of that. Except, it's a lot easier to just switch to something else on a computer than it is on a phone. There's more context. I have 3 monitors open. I can do one thing on one and then watch something on the other. That can be a background. You can't really background a video and also play a game on a phone as easily, for example. You can't background the video and scroll Twitter as easily on a phone. Now, is scrolling Twitter good for you? No. But if you did it on a computer, would it be less brain rotting than on a phone? Maybe slightly. I'm not quite sure. But at the very least, it would get you into a position where you're used to going to the computer to scroll mindlessly rather than using your phone for that, which means you have more of an ability to consciously choose to step up. Because like what if you're on your phone, you're laying in bed scrolling, you're laying on the couch scrolling, to come onto the computer, I need to come into this room, I need to sit down in this chair, physically move my mouse and keyboard around. If I get up and I move away from it, it doesn't follow me. I don't have to carry this with me at all times like I do that. And so there's less of a distraction aspect. Like there's a lot you can do in regards to that. Does that make sense? Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Unfortunately, I live in the middle of nowhere. That does, make it harder. I'm trying this new thing where my phone automatically sets to black and white at 6 p.m. to try and reduce how appealing my phone scrolling is. Yeah, you could do that. Night mode is a way that could make it somewhat more effort to use your phone. So you're saying I shouldn't get a Neuralink. Yes, I am saying that you should not get a Neuralink. No, it's AM? Huh. Right. So you have it swapped to the beginning of the day. I mean, that works too. I do that actually. PC, not phone. One can live like this. One used to live like this for a while, actually, before we had smartphones. That is what you had to do. Back in the day, back in my day, when I was growing up, when you wanted to spend time on the internet, you had to go to a computer. You had to, if I wanted to play Neopets, I wanted to sit down in my computer chair and open up a browser on my computer and play Neopets. Couldn't do that on my phone. Use it that way. It'll make your life a lot better. Once you build that into a habit, it's more fun. Trump wants to spend millions to reopen Alcatraz. Is that surprising to you? We're building camps all over the country. Who cares? It's nothing new. Before the Iron Curtain fell, not everyone here had a phone. Let that sink in. Yeah. You don't need a smartphone. You might need a phone in the modern day, but you don't need a smartphone. Having different places for different activities is healthy. Yes. And on top of that, the way that you associate certain activities will change. If you have to go into the computer room to use the computer to scroll on Twitter, then you will feel, well, not everyone wants to give up their smartphone. You will feel different than you would on the phone. Personally, I think that smartphones should all get shot into the sun. And that we should all go back to flip phones, to side swipe phones that have like a keyboard. Like how sleeping in a bed feels better than sleeping on the couch. Exactly. Although there's other reasons for that. What you can't do anymore is, unfortunately, you can't buy burner phones. Those don't exist anymore. Because to get a SIM, you now have to like tie your like ID to the SIM, which is what they put forward to try and make it harder to get burner phones. I'm sure there's some states where you still can in the US because like even our politicians are criminals. So, they need their burner phones from somewhere. Either or. All right. And today I'm going to be playing Half-Life 2 after stream for the first time. Thank you to Shufu Poofer. But I will be doing that in the Discord and not on Twitch this time around. So if you want to join in and hang out, you'll be able to hop into voice while I play as well and chill with us. Join the Discord. And I think I'm kind of good for the day for this because it's just such a happy day that every other little bit of news that we have is so depressing that I'd rather just let us sit, take the L, take the W, and then we can take the L tomorrow. So that's what I'm doing. like the stream, join the Discord. I will be jumping on voice pretty much like 5 minutes after hanging up, and then we will jump straight into the game. So I will see you guys tomorrow for like more actual news coverage, and we will talk more about America this time.